Chapter 797, Kunluan's soul. Lin Qian carefully pushed open the door. The blinding light from the seal formations in the room caused his heart to hurt. A hunched figure sat cross-legged in the middle of the room. If people saw this scene, they would be astonished. This hunched figure was the sect leader of Kunluan. Yet his arms had disappeared, and only half of his snowy white brows were light. He would occasionally cough, and with every cough, his hunched figure would heave and shudder. Lin Qian's nose felt sore. Thinking about Master's presence in the past, his heart twisted. "Master!" he called lightly. The sect leader heard him and he straightened in difficulty. He said gently, "Qianer has come." His face was covered in wrinkles, his eyes blurry, his voice hoarse like an elderly person at the last days of his life. "Yes." Lin Qian was afraid that he would be overwhelmed and cry. He only answered with one word. He quickly walked next to Master and started to take Master's pulse to check his wounds. Master had been injured when he had been exploring the ancient ruins. His arms were cut off, his body completely void of Ling power, his organs null of all life. Lin Qian thought of all the ways he could, but he could just barely manage to keep Master breathing. This gray presence didn't have any life at all. Lin Qian's heart twisted in pain. He knew that Master had wanted to forge a Shin device that truly belonged to him. Kunlun's, capable person, was the first Shin device of Kunluan, yet there were many parts about it that were not perfect. Master had not been content. "You do not need to worry for me." The sect leader knew that his disciple was sad and comforted him. "I have lived for so long, I've lived enough." "Master." Lin Qian heard this and his tears could not be held back any longer. "Child, you are a sect leader, you cannot be childish like this," the sect leader smiled. His gray-white face was lifeless. "You have done well. I'm not worried handing Kunluan to you." Lin Qian sobbed soundlessly. "I only reached a clear mind a few days ago, and realized many things. Cloud Sea Shin power is unique, and completely different from Kunluan. We cannot just copy it. What Kunluan cultivates is the sword is the truth. What we need is a Shin sword, not a raiment. The Shin device is good, but it is not suited to Kunluan. One sword defeats all, that is the way of Kunluan." The sect leader's hoarse voice echoed in the room. Lin Qian could hear that Master was warning him, and felt even more pained. "I am satisfied at completing my greatest wish before death. You should not feel sad for me," the sect leader said gently. "The sword that I found for you has great origins, it is one of the strongest Shin swords in the ancient era. While it has been sealed for a long time, it still has its power. Do not fail to live up to its reputation. This disciple will not fail you." Lin Qian stopped his tears and gave a sword oath. The sect leader nodded. "I only have one wish left." "Master, please speak." Lin Qian's gaze was determined. He decided inside that no matter what, he had to complete Master's wish. The sect leader raised his head. "My arms and Ling power are gone, my life is gone, the only thing left is my soul. I wish to throw my soul into the immemorial Shin sword, and strengthen the sword's soul." Lin Qian's tears that had just stopped began streaming down again. He shook his head. "Master, no. Nurturing the sword with the soul was a cruel affair. The soul would experience endless pain and hardship, unable to ever reincarnate. This is Master's last wish." The sect leader's blurred eyes suddenly became sharp. "We have been raised by Kunluan. I, as the sect leader, will use my blood and soul to repay Kunluan. If you do not promise, I will not die in peace." "Master." Lin Qian lost his voice as he sobbed. "I have decided," the sect leader said steadily. He closed his eyes and did not speak. The light of the formation flashed, Shin power flooding outwards. In the center, an ancient sword floated in the air. All of the Kunluan elders, all of the core disciples were gathered here. Everyone had sorrowful expressions. When Lin Qian appeared carrying the sect leader on his back, everyone knelt in unspoken agreement. The sect leader had great authority in the sect, and was revered by everyone. Seeing the sect leader wither to this state, everyone felt a great pain. Kunlun is now in your hands. The sect leader's voice was hoarse and quiet. Those that heard cried. Someone said sorrowfully, "We do not dare to begrudge our bodies." The sect leader nodded, comforted. Lin Qian's tears rained down and he could not speak. He could only carry the sect leader forward. The sect leader did not say much. His soul came out of his body and he stepped into the seal formation. The sect leader had great cultivation, and his sword soul was pure. The immemorial sword in the center of the seal formation suddenly pulled at him. The sword soul of the sect leader turned into a stream of light and entered the sword. The surrounding Kunlun elders and disciples stared to cry. Inside the sword, a soul endured astounding pain as it murmured. "Qianer, Master can only guide you up to here." Inside Kunlun realm, a sword essence pierced the sky, and all swords hummed together. The world was astounded. Wei Shen was completely covered in blood, his clothing torn. He held the blood sword in his hand. In front of him, Wu Le's expression was ashen. There is such a strong person in the world. Wu Le murmured to himself. After saying this, he fell face forward without any presence left. Wei Shen looked disheveled but his expression was normal. The god-killing blood sword in his hand had just finished drinking blood and was unusually eerie. Suddenly, Wei Shen seemed to feel something and raised his head. Almost at the same moment, the god-killing blood sword in his hand seemed to be excited. The blood light erupted and shot into the sky. A blood pillar dozens of zhang thick erupted. Inside the pillar of light, Wei Shen was like a gold of killing ascending. Wei Shen raised his head and gazed at the sky. He felt the furious fighting spirit coming from the god-killing blood sword in his hand. He took a deep breath and pushed down the almost boiling fighting spirit he felt. His clear glassy eyes of blood were filled with shock. There was such a strong and powerful sword essence in the world. A sword essence that ruled the world. His excitement at beating his opponent just now completely disappeared. Wei Shen looked dazedly at the sky, his shock slowly disappearing from his eyes. What replaced it was strong fighting spirit and murderousness. Kunlun. Wei Shen murmured to himself as his hand unconsciously gripped the god-killing blood sword in his hand. Only one place would have such a strong sword essence that it would cause hopelessness. That was Kunlun. Wei Shen felt his spirit rise in his chest. Suddenly, nearby, the lightning was astoundingly thick as though something was stimulated by the sword essence that came down. Wei Shen's mind moved and he hurriedly flew towards where the lightning was gathered. The closer he flew, the more surprised he was. The lightning was shooting into the sky from the ground. Was there some treasure here? He quickly flew to the origin of the lightning. There was a bronze mirror laying on the ground. The word, thunder, was engraved on the bronze mirror. The copper mirror flashed with light and electrical snakes swam over it. Hiss, crack. A lightning snake suddenly shot into the sky. When the lightning snake left the bronze mirror, it would grow rapidly until it was the thickness of an arm and tear apart the sky. Zuomo raised his head and looked into the sky. The ghost mist child also looked in shock at the sky. He murmured to himself, such strong sword essence. So there is such a strong person in the present era? He had yielded to Zuomo, yet he could still see that the strongest of this era was much weaker compared to the ancient era. Yet this sword essence that seemed to conquer the world and was undefeatable shocked him. How could such a strong sword essence appear in this era? Suddenly, he felt something familiar within the sword essence that caused him to shake and unconsciously blurt out, "Immemorial. Immemorial." Zuomo moved his gaze to look at the ghost mist child. The ghost mist child said in a dreamlike fashion, "Immemorial is the most famous Shin sword in the R legends. They say that the wielder of this sword will become an Emperor Sky." Familiar with the sun gold leaf, Zuomo knew what Emperor Sky meant. In the ancient era, the strongest of each era would become the leader of all the tribes, and be called Emperor Sky. Emperor Sky. Zuomo showed a cold smirk, murder undisguised in his eyes. If he wants to be Emperor Sky, he needs to see if I agree or not. The ghost mist child stilled and then suddenly reacted. He stammered out, "Is this master's enemy?" Zuemo glanced at him and said uncaringly, "Yes, enemies to the death." "What, you're afraid?" The ghost mist child quickly reacted. He looked at Zuemo's unfriendly face and hurriedly expressed his attitude. "Master, what are you saying? Master's enemies are my enemies." Zuemo moved his gaze away but his face turned dark. Such a strong sword essence that could be felt even here. It was most likely because of the immemorial Shin sword that the ghost mist child spoke of. Lin Qian's individual strength was unparalleled. In the past, Zuemo and a few others had to work together to stop one of his blows. Supposedly, Lin Qian had been the one to create Kunlun's Shin methodology. No one knew what level his strength was at, but Zuemo knew that it was definitely strong, very strong. If Zuemo had to pick another person in the world that could stand shoulder to shoulder with Wei Xingxixiang, he would definitely pick Lin Qian. And now, with this immemorial Shin sword, Lin Qian's strength probably reached a terrifying level. It could possibly be a height that no one in the world could reach. While Zuemo did not fear the other, when he thought that his worst enemy had obtained such a Shin device, Zuemo felt as uncomfortable as he had swallowed a fly. Kunlun. Let's wait and see. Suo Hall. Luo Li had an expression of helplessness. There was a group of guards behind him. The great majority of the guards were with him. However, when he encountered the people from Heart Leaf Diana sect, they had charged forward without a second word. The sect leader of Heart Leaf Diana sect hadn't thought that the enemy would fight without even a greeting. He lost the round. There were many guards in this group, a dozen that formed a battle formation. They were an even match for the elders of Heart Leaf Diana sect. The sect leader had some skill, and the two sides were at a deadlock. The Heart Leaf Diana sect leader's Shin power was vast while Luo Li's fighting method was eerie. Wali was skilled in strange and unorthodox methods that made great trouble for the other. The peerless sword essence of the immemorial came from the sky without any warning. Wali opened her breath-stealing beautiful eyes. Chapter 798, Comprehension. Wali's cold eyes showed a rare ripple of emotion. Peerless sword essence covered the sky above them. She raised her face, her crystal-like eyes quietly changed. Luo Li's heart stilled. A strange feeling rose. He and Wali were two sides of one body. The connection between them was the most unique existence in the world. Both Luo Li and Wali existed between life and death. The two's minds were connected and were like one. However, there were slight differences between them. Wali was a sword spirit manifested from Luo Li's sword essence, from intangible to tangible. Luo Li had comprehended, life-death lock, from life going into death, from tangible to intangible. These slight changes caused the two of them to have different abilities. Detecting Wali's change, Luo Li became slightly nervous. Wali's personality was cold and distant. When she had been a sword spirit, Luo Li had known her strength well. Yet the present Wali was like a completely new life form. While the two were of the same mind and from the same origin, two aspects of one body. Luo Li did not know what abilities that Wali had. Wali's personality was cold and she would never speak of her own accord. Luo Li was not as sensitive to sword essence as Wali. His skill was his unique understanding of life and death. This was a comprehension that, life-death lock, gave him. Sword essence. Luo Li looked into the sky and then turned to stare nervously at Wali. Suddenly, Luo Li's expression changed slightly. Walil's presence was changing. How come it was like this? Luo Li was astounded. A strange feeling rose. He knew that this was because Wali's changes were reflected on him. Wali. He became slightly dazed. In order to become a sect leader, he naturally was strong. Heart Leaf Diana sect was not a top sect like Kunlun and Tianhuan, but it was still not something that any little sect could compare to. The Heart Leaf Diana sect leader immediately detected Wali's change. He saw this seemingly beautiful, icy, and lifeless female changing in front of him. It was as though she was shedding her soft and gentle appearance to reveal a cold sword edge. The edges were like water. A vast blue body of water. Yet the edges disappeared after appearing. The female suddenly became ethereal and unpredictable. She was clearly in front of him, but in his perception, the space seemed empty. This strange feeling was so uncomfortable that he wanted to spit blood. It felt as though suddenly, the feeling of having everything within his grasp disappeared. Having fought innumerable times, this was the first time the leader of Heartleaf Diana sect had such a strange feeling. This woman was strange. Countless thoughts flashed through his mind, but the sect leader could not attend to them. While he did not understand what was going on with the changes of the female, this kind of change was not something good for him. Murderousness rose. Any person that cultivated the Heartleaf Diana sect Shin power would have a leaf-shaped mark on their palm that indicated their strength. The Heartleaf Diana sect leader was the only one in the sect that had reached a level of 7 branches and 7 leaves. Without any hesitation, the sect leader attacked with a killing move. His expression devout and serious, 7 verdant tree leaves flew out of his palm. They danced softly in the air with concealed murderousness. The 7 green leaves drew out 7 green streaks of light that crisscrossed. 7-leaf Diana heart. Wally did not seem to see it. Her gaze was still looking into the distance, but her presence became increasingly ethereal. Luo Li's eyes became disbelieving. She was comprehending sword essence. It's Kuan Luan. The sect leader of Tian Huan said. His face was filled with shock and anxiousness. In the history of the Xiuzhou world, such strong sword essence had never appeared, and he had never even heard of it. Kuan Luan and Tian Huan seemed to be comparable in strength, but all this time, Kuan Luan had been suppressing Tian Huan. If Tian Huan and Kuan Luan could be said to have been on good terms during the era of the Four Realms, then Kuan Luan was Tian Huan's strongest enemy and most important opponent. Now, this great enemy suddenly possessed a terrifyingly powerful secret weapon. Tian Huan was alarmed. There was an old person sitting in front of the sect leader. This old person was the mysterious chief elder of Tian Huan who had found the secret of the Shin glyphs. The chief elder's expression was serious. The sword essence just now had been too powerful, so powerful it almost surpassed the limits of their imagination. He asked gravely, "We need to investigate this matter." Kuan Luan. Kuan Luan. The sect leader said, "Shirji will remember." The chief elder's status was above everyone in the sect. He was a generation older than the sect leader. Adding on that he had found the secret of the Shin glyph and pushed Tian Huan into the era of Shin power with just his power. His achievement and service was so great that even the sect leader was willing to be commanded by him. Chief Elder was obsessed with Shin glyphs and didn't like to interfere with sect matters. However, Kuan Lun's sword essence was too astounding. Chief Elder had seen worldly apparitions before, yet being able to detect it from Kuan Luan meant that it was an almost unimaginably powerful existence. For Kuan Luan, this was the worst news. He was worried, but he still maintained a calm expression. Suddenly, the bracelet on his hand suddenly lit up. He thought of something, and hurriedly activated a spell. A mirage cloud came out of the bracelet. The cloud changed and the scene of an intense fight appeared in front of them. "It's Yu Xian." The sect leader was slightly shocked. He recognized Ruan Yu Xian at a glance. Ruan Yu Xian was the leader of the mission this time. The sect leader did not look away. The fighting was intense and it could seem that Ro Xian was losing. "HM, you recognize this person?" The chief elder pointed at Ruan Yu Xian's opponent and asked. The sect leader thought for a moment and found the answer. "It's Mo Cloud Seized Tsing Lianer. She cultivates Moon Shin power, supposedly, it is a complete inheritance." Hearing this, Chief Elder's eyes became brighter and he murmured to himself, "No wonder, no wonder." The sect leader was curious, yet he did not dare to disturb the Chief Elder in fear of interrupting his thinking. His gaze landed on the mirage. After watching for a while, his expression became grave. Wan Yuxian could maintain his composure in an emergency, far more than the other disciples, which was why he had been given such an important task. However, he was not weak. Even though he only cultivated one Shin glyph, his skill was solid. Tian Huan had not paid great attention to the mission this time. The ruins were in Lotus Sutra Temple's territory and it was not easy to move there. Li Xian'er and the other disciples were all at important points in their cultivation and could not travel. Through different methods, Tian Huan had divined that the journey of the ruins would be dangerous this time. However, under the suggestion of Chief Elder, he still sent Wan Yuxian and a few others to sneak in. He had originally thought that Chief Elder had other considerations until Chief Elder told him directly and he realized. Chief Elder had reached a bottleneck on his comprehension of Shin glyphs, and he wanted to obtain inspiration from the other paths. The opening of the ancient ruins would attract many experts. Chief Elder only had to do a few things in order to see the fights of the disciples. He had not concealed this from Wan Yuxian and the others. The sect leader also said that if they could not win, they did not need to fight to the death. Wan Yuxian and the others were not opposed to this arrangement. The benefit to Tian Huan, if they could help Chief Elder, was clear. Chief Elder's setup was effective. After watching for a while, the sect leader's face became ugly. Tsing Lianer was strong as they said. He knew long ago about Tsing Lianer's strength. However, he was still surprised at how easily Tsing Lianer suppressed Wan Yuxian. He unconsciously compared Tsing Lianer and Li Xian'er but he quickly found that he could not come to any specific conclusions. This caused his expression to turn uglier. According to the intelligence reports, Tsing Lianer was not the strongest fighter under Zhuo Mo's command. All of the reports showed that Tsing Lianer was ranked third among Zhuo Mo's various fighters. The first was Wei Sheng, the second was a Gui. They were even more terrifyingly strong existences. Yet Xian'er was the most accomplished of the younger generation of Tian Huan disciples. When comparing the best genius of Tian Huan and the third-ranked fighter of Mo Cloud C, there was an inconclusive comparison. This indicated many problems already. When he thought of Kun Lun's peerless sword essence just now, the sect leader felt even more worried. Tian Huan was falling behind in terms of top experts. Do not worry. The chief elder seemed to know what the sect leader thought and said, Tian Huan is on a different path from Kun Luen and we are slightly similar to Mo Cloud C. An individual fights using their individual methods, a battalion fights with a battalion's methods. If we can advance a step on the Shin glyphs, our Shin equipment would grow in strength. At that time, our battalions would become unprecedentedly powerful. Chief Elder's words were filled with confidence. The sect leader felt better and his thoughts turned. He had to admit that Chief Elder was right. Before Mo Cloud C appeared, Tian Huan had been the strongest faction in forging. Tian Huan's battalions had been the best outfitted of all the factions. However, Mo Cloud C's sudden rise had caused them to surpass Tian Huan in Shin equipment. Chief Elder's gaze was clear. Mo Cloud C is extraordinary and Tsing Lianer is strong. However, she has allowed me to see some ancient secrets. At most a few months, at minimum 1 or 2, new Shin glyphs will take form. Tian Huan's new Shin equipment will show their light. The sect leader said joyfully, Great. What does this Shirji have to prepare? Chief Elder glanced at the sect leader before saying, I do not want to interfere in some matters. However, as the sect leader of Tian Huan, you have to see clearly. The greatest enemy to us is not Kun Luen but Mo Cloud C. The sect leader stilled. What is Tian Huan strongest in? Seal formations, forging. In the past, anyone that wanted to buy a talisman will chose Tian Huan first. But right now, even Shi Xian went to Mo Cloud C to order Shin equipment. Chief Elder's tone suddenly became harsh. I should not need to say more of Tian Huan's business. One more piece of Shin equipment sold is one more portion of Jingshi we make and one more friend. But right now, even I know that the best on the market is not our Tian Huan's Shin equipment. You are the sect leader, you need to see this clearly. The sect leader broke out in a cold sweat. Mo Cloud C is the biggest enemy to Tian Huan. Remember. Chief Elder shouted. The era is different. Stop your posturing as Tian Huan. Go compete with them, steal back the lost business and allies. Only then will Tian Huan prosper. Understand? The sect leader kowtowed sincerely. Yes. Mo Cloud C is the greatest enemy to Tian Huan. His last words were murderous. Chapter 799, Ambush. Sui Mo was not in a good mood. The sword essence just now had been too great of a blow to his confidence. Kunlun was so far away from this place, yet that sword essence was able to reach this place. Even the Jinji of the Totem Colosseum were unable to block it. How terrifying it was. Sui Mo suddenly realized that when individual strength reached a certain level, it could also change the state of the world. In reality, Sui Mo did not place great importance on the training of experts. Mo Cloud C developed using forging. This was similar to Tian Huan's development path. There were no direct benefits in this path to develop experts, but it was beneficial for increasing their overall strength. The reason that Mo Cloud C had so many strong fighters was just because it had been slightly ahead in this crucial time of the Ling Power era switching to the Shin Power era. But as Kunlun and Tian Huan reacted, the opportunity from being early was not as large as they imagined. But even so, Mo Cloud C was still positioned well. Top experts were stronger than before, but the average strength level had also increased greatly. The difference between the two did not increase, but decreased. Top experts could affect the results of a battle but could not become strategic assets. As Shin equipment became mainstream and Shin device raiments were rare, the difference shrunk even more. Even the strongest expert could not win against an elite battalion. That situation was just destroyed right now. Such terrifying sword essence was not something the sword show of this era could possess. It definitely was a peerless Shin sword left over from the ancient era. The Ghost Mist Child said it was the immemorial sword. Sui Mo was still slightly in doubt. Even an ancient Shin device could not have such an astounding presence. Sui Mo was not blind. Wei Xing's god-killing blood sword was also an ancient Shin sword, yet the two swords' presence was not on the same level. There was something else going on here. While he did not understand, Sui Mo perceptively realized that something important had occurred. Even if Kunlun could only use 10% of such power, it would be enough to erase a battalion. If they were stronger and could use all of that power, Sui Mo would not be surprised if they could destroy a Jie. This meant that a new kind of war had formed. Think about it. If Lin Qian sneaked into Cloud C Jie and then destroyed Cloud C Jie with a single strike, it would be a true catastrophe for Mo Cloud C. Sui Mo felt a chill rise from his feet. It was too terrifying. But this was not solvable. The movement of large battalions could not be concealed, but no faction would be able to stop few people from sneaking in. What do they do then? Sui Mo compartmentalized the terror he felt and his mind started to turn, thinking of a solution. His mind was nimble, cunning, and intelligent, but this time, he had no plans. When the difference in power between the two was too great, any scheme was worthless. He pulled out the Ghost Mist Child and asked, what method can cause the immemorial sword to have this presence? The Ghost Mist Child was confused. A moment later, he understood. His little face scrunched together as he thought. He said, most likely, they used a peerless soul to nurture the sword in order to reach this level. Little Mo Guess mind shifted and he suddenly asked, God-killing blood sword, have you heard of it? Slight terror rose on the Ghost Mist Child's face. Does Master possess this sword? Not good. The sword is inauspicious. It is the most vicious sword. Every one of the sword's masters died in violence. Master, do not be greedy about this sword's power. Sui Mo shook his head. This sword is my Shixiang's. My Shixiang is strong in mind and cannot be defeated. Do not worry. I just want to ask, how does this sword compare to the immemorial Shin sword? The worry on the ghost mist child's face did not lessen, but he said, "The god-killing blood sword is called the most vicious sword in the world. It has drank the blood of countless warriors, and is not lacking at all compared to immemorial. If I want this sword to reach the presence that now, what should I do?" Suemo felt as though he found a good solution. "Since Kunlun has the powerful immemorial Shin sword, then we will level up the god-killing blood sword to the same level. That way, I cannot guard against you, you cannot guard against me, we will be on the same level." The ghost mist child understood what Suemo meant to do but shook his head. "If you want to elevate the god-killing blood sword to such a level, you need the essence blood of countless warriors, and not souls. However, this sword is the most vicious in history. The sword's soul is bloodthirsty and savage, primarily inauspicious. If it becomes so strong, no one will be able to control it. It will probably turn into a storm of blood." Suemo was silent. What the ghost mist child said was not complex. Suemo had seen Shixiang's god-killing blood sword, the killing essence of that sword was so strong it was unparalleled in the world. If the god-killing blood sword really became so strong, Suemo felt that even Shixiang would not be able to control it. There would be only one result if the weapon was stronger than the master: backlash upon the master. Suemo suddenly thought of an important point and asked, "Wouldn't the immemorial Shin sword also cause backlash?" The ghost mist child said without thinking, "If one is not strong enough and attempts to control it, then of course it will." "How strong?" "If they are as strong as me, will there be backlash?" Suemo asked. The ghost mist child was afraid of offending Suemo, but he would not dare to lie. Hesitating a while, he nodded and said, "Yes." Then he added, "If master is slightly stronger, then no." Suemo ignored his last sentence. Lin Qian was stronger than him, but definitely not much stronger. That meant that Lin Qian would also receive backlash. Suemo's mind turned. If one does not want to receive backlash, then now. The ghost mist child stilled and blurted out, "Unless it is people like his relatives who are willing to merge their soul into the sword and help him suppress it. However, this is not realistic. Using a soul to nurture the sword, the soul will be placed in great torment and will never be able to be released and reincarnated." Suemo was silent. He couldn't help but look at Agui next to him. Wasn't Agui's undying Shin punishment just like this? He had seen Kunlun's seal. For those madmen, they could do something like this. However, he would not be able to do it, and he would never agree to it. He finally knew what had happened at Kunlun, but even so, he did not have any solution. It was not a pleasurable matter for any person when their enemies were a group of madmen with belief. At this time, he suddenly saw two figures flash out of the corner of his eyes. Suemo seemed to wake up. This was not the time to think about such matters. A strong feeling of danger rose. He had an even stronger desire for the Shin device nucleus. A Shin device raiment could not change the disadvantage Mo Cloud C had in terms of strategically useful experts, but it could decrease the gap between them. In a few moments, Mo made a decision. The murderousness in his eyes grew. The incomers were not from his side. Mo's body flashed and he appeared without any hesitation next to one of the people. The other hadn't thought that they would be attacked just after walking out. Mo had attacked without any warning, no noise. He was like a viper hidden in the shadows before suddenly exploding in a fatal attack. Layers of sun Shin power covered his hand. A small axe of light formed. If the sun Shin axe that Suemo had manifested when he had been fighting with the ghost mist child was tens of thousands of caddies heavy, then what was on his hand now was a throwing axe. The dark gold axe was the size of his palm. It was unusually thin and light. The sun glyph on the surface of the axe was fine and exquisite. The markings representing the rays of the sun almost covered the entire surface of the axe. Suemo's hand flickered. The little axe silently turned into a stream of light and struck the waist of the incomer. When the other managed to react and gathered their Shin power, it was too late. The sun Shin power was too sharp. This person, caught off guard, had Shin power as thin as paper. He was unable to stop the axe entering his body. The incomer's body froze. Moments later, he gave a scream. Blinding golden light suddenly released from his body. A wisp of golden fire shot out of his body and then turned him into flames in that moment. Agui's movements were similarly brisk. Just as Zuemo was attacking, Agui's hand already gripped the neck of the other person. With a crack, the other person died without even making a sound. The ghost mist child gaped with wide eyes. By the time he reacted, he felt a wave of cold come up from under him. Such viciousness. Killing without blinking. Zuemo crouched on the ground to gather spoils. The corpse that Agui held was thrown in front of Zuemo. They were people from Skanda Temple. Zuemo's expression did not change. In just a few moments, he cleared the two of their possession. The two had only average items, except one damaged Skanda staff. It seemed slightly old and was likely an item from the ancient era. Zuemo weighed it. The half-section of the staff was unusually heavy and he could hear the sounds of wind and thunder. They had some wealth, Zuemo thought. The splitting of the 9 great Dhyana sects would be difficult to stop. The present 9 great Dhyana sects would split into 2 groups. The group led by Thunder Sound Temple was closer to Mo Cloud Sea. And Skanda sect, Heart Leaf Dhyana sect and others were controlled by Kunlun and Tian Huan. Therefore, Zuemo did not need to have any care towards Skanda sect. Suddenly, Zuemo realized that this was a wonderful battlefield. Since everyone had to come through here, then they, who got here first, had a great advantage. If they repeated what they just did. Zuemo suddenly became excited. He asked the Ghost Mist Child, "Can you act in here?" The Ghost Mist Child recovered from his shock and nodded repeatedly. "Yes, yes, yes." Zuemo motioned. "Use mist to fill this entire place. We need to make a mist formation in here." The Ghost Mist Child became alert. This was the first battle he was fighting under his new master. He had to do well for master to have a good opinion of him. Without another word, he activated the Mist Eye Tablet. The Mist Eye Tablet sprouted out thick white mist. Soon, the mist filled the entire hall except in the area within 3 zhang of the 4 palace gates. Once the mist went near the palace gates, they would be pushed away. Zuemo did not care. He pulled out the Black Gold Seal Soldier and Lil Pagoda from his ring. Lil Fire, and Lil Black, who did not have any offensive capabilities, were shoved back into the ring. Things like ambushes were the most exciting. Chapter 800, Sneak Attack. Tan Su and the other 2 had joyful expressions. That peerless sword essence just now astounded them, and what made them even happier was that the sword essence contained that familiar Kunlun presence. Everyone knew what that meant. No matter if it was a Shixiang had achieved a supreme level, or the appearance of the Shin sword, the powerful sword essence represented great power. This was definitely a good matter for Kunlun. The trio were all children of Kunlun, the true backbone of Kunlun. They were connected to the well-being of the sect. "We will definitely obtain the Shin device nucleus," Nye Chin said with a steely resolve. Unusual determination flashed through his eyes, and his usually calm expression was excited. The other 2 people nodded at the same time with fanatical expressions. This peerless sword essence seemed to rule over the world. Even the strongest expert was like an ant in front of such powerful sword essence. The title of the strongest in the world once again returned to Kunlun. Kunlun had always been thought of the sect's strongest in battle. Yet in these past years, they were not as they once were. Even a Mo Cloud Sea dared to fight them. This was hard for the proud Kunlun disciples to tolerate. Now that Kunlun once again demonstrated its unparalleled power, how could Tan Su and the others not be excited? "Everyone, be careful." Nye Chin did not let the victory go to his head. He was even more careful. He knew that if the other people were only 50% sincere in their desire to get the Shin device nucleus, now it would be 100%. The Shin device nucleus was not able to match that sword essence right now, but an extra Shin device raiment meant that the other factions would have that much more power to fight Kunlun. However, Nie Chen did not worry. The three of them were all children of Kunlun, true experts picked carefully out of numerous disciples. There were only 50 of them in all of Kunlun. If it was just one person, Nie Chen would reconsider, but with the three of them combined with their preparations and knowledge about the Totem Colosseum, Nie Chen was confident in obtaining the nucleus. Zhen Lingmeng played with the rain commanding banner in her hand and then suddenly said, "The rain banner is a good treasure. But if we want to activate it, it needs to be refined using Shin power." Tan Su glanced over and shook his head. "I'm not interested in such a soft thing." Nie Chen did not compete. "My sword essence leans young and masculine, it is not suitable." "Shimmy, use it." Zhen Lingmeng did not refuse and nodded. "All right." The Rain Commander banner was suited to her. Her sword essence was a completely yin. She started to consider the Rain Commanding banner into a Shin sword. She liked the name, Rain Commander. With the help of this item, her strength would go up another level. Right now, not just Shin device Raymond's, they would be even jealous of a Shin sword. A Shin sword did not refer to how great a sword was, but if it could tolerate Shin power or not. Compared to Ling power, Shin power was multiple times more domineering. Normal flying swords could not withstand the stress of channeling it. In reality, this situation was not just occurring at Kunlun but also other sections. Kunlun's 1,000 years of accumulation was all based on the Ling power system. They did not have many advantages with the present Shin power. They might have some wealth, but there were too many people. The wealth was only enough to create one or two Shin devices. Other people could only look on. In the last few years, several materials that were suitable for Shin power had appeared. These materials were not high in grade, but even so, their prices skyrocketed, and were extremely valuable. This was also why Shin equipment was so expensive. The lagging development of Shin materials caused people to have to endure the limitations caused by the low-level weapons they wielded. Therefore, while Tan Su and Nie Chen generously passed on the Rain Commanding banner, they could not help but feel slight jealously. It was possible to forge a Shin sword using the Rain Commanding banner as the primary body. Obtaining an appropriate Shin sword was something to be admired. Looking at Zhen Mingling unable to let go of the article, Nie Chen smiled. "Shimmy, you can study this after we return. Let's first complete the mission." Zhen Lingmeng's face blushed red. She was slightly embarrassed. "This one has lost composure." Nie Chen smiled understandingly and then reminded with a serious expression. "The path ahead is full of danger, we need to be alert and careful. The people from Mo Cloud Sea are not easy to deal with." "Humph. I think the rumors exaggerate." Tan Su snorted and said proudly. "It is a pity we did not encounter them now. Otherwise, I will kill them all and hang their heads on Mo Cloud Sea's transportation formations." Nie Chen smiled helplessly. Tan Su Shidi usually looked down on people, and he was too lazy to say otherwise. But Zhen Lingmeng became alert and her stray thoughts disappeared. Nie Chen nodded inside and said, "Let's go. After the Rain Hall is the gates of the 4 palaces. After going through the 4 palaces, we will be able to find the Shin device nucleus." "That isn't interesting." Tan Zu's eyes flashed viciously. "How about we set up an ambush in front of the 4 palace gates and take the wind of Mo Cloud Sea's sails? Wouldn't that be more enjoyable?" Nie Chen's mind moved. He felt that Tan Zu's idea was plausible. With their strength, if they wanted to ambush someone, there would be pitifully few that would be able to dodge. "Would there be people faster than us?" Zhen Lingmeng suddenly asked. Nie Chen and Tan Su stilled. The murderousness on Tan Zu's face disappeared, and he became thoughtful. He was proud but not stupid. "Most likely not." Nie Chen said seriously. "We have a good grasp on the situation, and we have not encountered any strong enemies, we had an open path. It probably wouldn't be easy for people to be faster than us. However, we have to be alert. If the enemy does this, it will not be good if we fall for it." The 3 exchanged looks and all had grave expressions. "Let's go, be careful. Nie Chen warned again. Zhuo Mo's ambush plan was very successful. They had successively killed a few people without any real effort. These people had never thought they would be ambushed. Zhuo Mo and the others were fast and vicious in their attacks. However, these people were average in strength and didn't have anything good on them. This disappointed Zhuo Mo slightly. However, thinking from a different angle, they were all his enemies. With each death, his hopes of getting the Shin device nucleus would grow. He immediately felt better. Suddenly, the ghost mist child warned. 3 incoming. After a few rounds, everyone worked together well and did not need to call to each other as Ghost Mist Child told the positions of the 3 to Zhuo Mo and the others. 3 people. Due to the positions, the ones that attacked were Zhuo Mo, 10th grade and Silly Bird. Little Mo guess little axe faded into the mist and silently sliced to one of the people. 10th grade's little moon crescent was tiny to begin with. It was impossible to perceive it within the mist. Possibly due to being with Zhuo Mo for such a long time, even the battle-hungry 10th grade became devious and cunning. This attack came without any sound. In comparison, the proud Silly Bird naturally disdained Zhuo Mo's devious moves. She stood proudly, and her bird beads suddenly pecked. The sharp bird beak brushed against the air and caused a spray of sparks. The tip of the bead was like boiling iron. The Ghost Mist Child who was paying attention to the entire situation saw Silly Bird's peck. He felt sympathy and the mist around him couldn't help but shake. Bam! Zhuo Mo's sneak attack was stopped. 10th grade's little moon crescent was thrown back with a chiming sound. Silly Bird's peck was the most effective. The domineering and sharp power penetrated the other Shin power defenses. Even the Shin equipment was not effective and a little hole was left behind. None of the 3 had succeeded. Zhuo Mo immediately understood they met a hard opponent. He was experienced in battle and knew that at this time, he could not give the enemy any time to think. He unhesitatingly moved forward, the Sun Shin axe in his hand howling as he sung with a ferocious presence. Zhuo Mo silently released 3 Sun Shin thorns. Ding! The sound of the collision that shook the entire field. The mist in the surroundings was split apart and the 2 stared at each other. Nie Chen's expression changed. The other's axe swing just now was extremely heavy. His entire right arm was trembling right now, so sore he could not raise it. Yet what caused him to change expression were the 3 Sun Shin thorns hiding towards him. The dark gold Sun Shin thorns flashed with sharp cold light that iced people's hearts. He had blocked the other's axe just now, and his Shin power was surging. With just the Shin equipment, he definitely could not stop these 3 Sun Shin thorns. Under the threat of great danger, Nie Chen's mind was unusually clear. Without thinking, the fingers on his left hand flickered out. BRRNG BRRNG BRRNG. 7 blinding sword energies suddenly shot out of his left hand. The sword energies howled as they tore the air. Finger sword wave. This sword scripture was one of the sword scriptures he had been most familiar with in the past. However, it was not among the ones that the elders had modified. After cultivating it for so long, it almost became instinct to rely on it. As a present child of Kunlun, Nie Chen's understanding of sword essence now was nothing like what it was when he had been uneducated. His used Shin power to cast, finger sword wave, but did not feel any rawness but unprecedentedly free. In the past, his skill with this sword scripture had been great and he had been able to control it to a fine degree. Now, it seemed as though that paper-thin window had been broken and he seemed to comprehend. The most dangerous and terrible times, people's potential was the easiest to uncover. Nie Chen was in an indescribable state. These 7 swords could be said to be so skilled it reached the summit. They cross, and like rain, they hit the 3 Sun Shin thrones from different angles. None of them missed. Ding ding ding. With a wave of clean and clear explosions the 3 sun thorns were deflected and brushed past Nie Chen's face dangerously as though they had been lightly flicked away by an invisible hand. The Sun Shin thorns touched Nie Chen's face and that intimidating hot presence caused his heart to shudder. He had missed. Zhuo was surprised. The sneak attack that he had thought could not fail had actually missed. This was an expert. Zhuo's eyes lit up. Chapter 801, the little 10th grade's sneak attack was stopped and the little 10th grade immediately howled as he charged towards Zhenling Meng. Killing energy swirled in the wind, the mist rippling. 10th grade was like a tiny black shadow that flickered in and out of view through the mist. The little crescents were like thousands of bolts of lightning. They rained down on Zhenling Meng from all directions. Sword essence filled the air. Killing energy boiled. The sword energies were black bolts of lightning. Sword essence spread. An invisible force wrapped around Zhenling Meng like thousands of spiderwebs. Zhenling Meng jumped in fright at being suddenly attacked. If she didn't have a treasure of the sect protecting her, she would have been injured. The Bagua heart protection mirror that her master had given her now had a crack on the border. Zhenling Meng was both shocked and angry. She was protected by the elders and Shixiang in the sect. Anyone that saw her would yield to her. When had she lost face like this? The talisman that master had given her had followed her for many years. She treasured it. It was now damaged. She was strong to begin with. Angered, she used her killing move without any hesitation. A cold sword energy cut across the mist like lightning to head towards the sword net made from 10th grade's crescent blade. Ding! A clear sound rang out of the entire battlefield. She felt a vicious power pass through the flying sword. Zhenling Meng felt the energies inside her roil and instinctively took 2 steps back. 10th grade's little body was thrown into the air. Such strong sword essence. Zhenling Meng was alarmed. It was the first time she encountered such a vicious sword essence. Also, the other's skill on sword essence matched her. Was this Wei Sheng? This thought flashed through Zhenling Meng's mind. She only knew of one person from Mo Cloud Sea that had such skill in sword essence, Wei Sheng. The rumors said that Wei Sheng wielded a blood-red sword. His sword essence was vicious and bloodthirsty. She felt that she had guessed correctly. However, her mind quickly calmed down. While the other had not put all of his power into that attack, she had also been reserved in her response. While she was surprised by the viciousness of the other's sword essence, she would not be surprised if it was Wei Sheng. As the strongest fighter of Mo Cloud Sea, Wei Sheng was no longer that unknown youth from the past, but an unorthodox top expert that was pointing a sword at the Holy Land for the sword show. Even the Kunlun geniuses with their eyes on the top of their heads put away their pride when they faced Wei Sheng. Zhenling Meng quickly calmed down. She swung her sword. In a blink, 12 sword essences formed a 12-layer barrier in front of her. Knowing that the enemy could possibly be Wei Sheng, she wisely chose to go on the defensive. Wei Sheng's reputation could be seen from this. The 12 sword energies crossed. The sword essence that they gave off made them form a secure article. Anything that came near would be torn into pieces by countless sword energies. Even the mist was not an exception. All the mist within 10 zhang disappeared. The ghost mist child snorted and was displeased inside. However, he did not attack. It had been a long time since he had participated in the world, but he had been a friendly and understanding henchman. He knew that he was the new person and the right thing to do was to get on good terms with the other brothers. 10th grade had a proud personality. It would not be good if he interfered. As expected, a furious howl came from the sky. Vicious and savage killing essence roared and echoed like lightning. Being thrown into the sky to the proud 10th grade was undoubtedly an embarrassment. He felt as though there was a burning flame inside. His black robes moved despite the lack of wind. His hands were raised high above his head. The crescent blade seemed to be attracted and flew into his raised hands. A tinge of dark red suddenly came onto the crescent blade. Like an incomplete moon drinking blood. 10th grade's hairs stood on end. His proud and cold little face was murderous. From the moment he was born, his greatest wish was to become the strongest Ling beast and not fail the name of 10th grade. Yet after seeing Wei Sheng's strength, Zhuomo's dominance, Agui's eeriness, Silly Bird's brutality, Zhong Ru's unfathomableness, and Luo Li's intangibility, this guy's eyes looked even higher. This little body was full of ambition. He was 10th grade. He was born to be at the top, how could he be mediocre? The mist below was dissipated by Zhenming Ling's sword essence. Her field of view broadened and the layers of sword energy flashed with beautiful light. 10th grade threw down a disdainful look. The fighting spirit inside burned and roiled. 10th grade showed his innate desire to fight. Come. Face 10th grade's ultimate move. 10th grade's eyes suddenly burning, his power rippling. His still proud face carried disdain that came from his bones. His arms suddenly pressed down. The dark red crescent suddenly shot down. Behind the crescent, the bloody afterimages were like silk. Countless vicious shadows flashed. They constantly changed, moving and turning, forming and disappearing. A peerlessly vicious presence came with an ear-piercing howl like the wails of thousands of ghosts that caused people's minds to shake. The blood color of the crescent blade became even deeper and the bloody shadows behind were even redder. 100 sacrificial soul-killing sword. There was no madness on 10th grade's little face. He was still as cold and proud as usual. He did not know that his expression right now was unconsciously mimicking his idol, Wei Xing Darren. This sword scripture that Wei Xing had picked for him was matched to his taste. He liked to fight, and this sword scripture was full of killing intent. He was Teacher Wei's fan. Whatever Teacher Wei said was right. From the start, he found that it was unusually enjoyable to cultivate this sword scripture. But he quickly found a new target. In his eyes, Teacher Wei was the strongest sword xiu in the world. Every time 10th grade went close to the god-killing blood sword, his blood would uncontrollably boil, and he would feel the thirst for blood. However, Teacher Wei would seem unaffected. Such a vicious god-killing blood sword was docile in his hands. Teacher Wei's heart was stronger than the strongest steel. He revered Teacher Wei. Correspondingly, his demands of himself increased. Even the god-killing blood sword could not shake Teacher Wei's mind. Then how could he let the measly 100 sacrificial soul-killing sword shake his mind? He started to copy Teacher Wei and tried to keep his mind unaffected by the sword essence. So this presence scene appeared. The crescent sword essence crossed the air, the sharp sword essence like a wild beast out of the cage. However, 10th grade's face was as cold and proud as usual. Yet the sword essence was so strong it reached an unprecedented level. They had almost fallen for a trap. Tan Su was both shocked and angry. He had a habit when he cultivated that no one knew of. He would always split a part of his mind to prepare for a battle no matter what the time was. This was because the first time that he had gone a mission, he had almost died from carelessness. From then on, he had persisted in this cultivation habit. Today, this habit saved his life again. A small hole appeared on his shin equipment. The shin power that protected his body had all been dissipated by the attack. If it wasn't for the shin equipment, his body would have a big bloody hole right now. Escaping the danger, Tan Su immediately became enraged, especially when he saw the one that had attacked him was a Ling beast. Tan Su became furious. Such a daring bastard. With a crimson-red flying sword in his hand, he flew towards Silly Bird like a flame. Hearing the word, bastard, the feathers on Silly Bird's forehead suddenly exploded and stood on end. Her usually proud and imperious eyes immediately filled with blood and became vicious and savage. When had Silly Bird ever been cursed like this? Facing the flame, she pecked again. This peck was unlike the one before. There seemed to be countless sparks that exploded at the tip of the beak. Every spark was the size of a grain of sand. These sparks did not fly in all directions but formed a spiraling pattern around the bird bead. A hint of imperceptible smugness flashed through Tan Zu's eyes. The fire that he had thrown out appeared normal but was dangerous. It was not fire, but something that appeared like fire made from pure sword essence. His attack was extremely deceptive and many had fallen to this. When he saw Silly Bird facing his sword essence, Flame, and pecked, Tan Su couldn't help but show some smugness in his eyes at the success of his plan. As expected, in the moment they came into contact, that thread of fire suddenly exploded. Vroom! Countless sword essences exploded and swallowed up Silly Bird. This seemingly normal fire contained 3060 sword energies that were extremely fine. When they were connected by the sword essence, they formed a flame. The sight of 3060 sword energies exploding at once was spectacular. The burning light caused people to close their eyes. The mist within dozens of zhang was swept away. A hair-raising rattle of the sounds of collision came from the burning ball of light. Tan Zu's smugness was on display as he snorted, "Just a feathered bastard dares to attack ye, it doesn't want to live. Ye will let you taste what it means to be a plucked phoenix." These 3600 sword energies contained countless variations. Once an enemy was trapped inside, they never managed to come out. It was an ultimate killing move. Sword Flame. Even when he fought against other Shixiang on Kunlun, whenever he used this killing move, all the Shixiang would avoid this and no one would ever take on this move head-on. Who was so confident they would escape unscathed from 3600 sword energies? Wasn't it easy to use a killing move that even the other children of Kunlun feared to deal with a feathered bastard? Tan Su looked around warily. At this time, he did not want someone else to sneak an attack on him. What he didn't know was that the Black Gold Seal soldier and Sunshine within the mist were looking with pity at him. "He's dead." The Black Gold Seal soldier shook his head and sighed. "No." Sunshine shook his head. That sunny face was full of pity. It is not so easy for one who has offended Big Sister Bird to die. Big Sister Bird was angry. The consequences were horrifying. The sword energies dissipated and revealed a proud and magnificent bird. Her feathers were slightly ruffled. Her narrowed eyes were not as angry as before, but they could easily cause people to feel that her anger had reached a peak. There was a short suffocating calm like the one before a storm. Chapter 802, Zhuo Mo's heart. Seeing the sun thorns miss, Zhuo Mo was shocked but reacted quickly. He advanced instead of retreating, and swung the Sunshin axe in his hand at the enemy. His speed was lightning fast. Nie Chen just saw a blur and golden energies suddenly flashed in front of him. At this time, Nie Chen was in a wondrous state, and his reaction was fast. His right hand beckoned and the flying sword pointed at Zhuo Mo's waist like a snake. This move bet on the fact the other would have to save himself. The Sunshin axe's sharp edge was almost at his face, but Nie Chen's face was calm and his crystal-like eyes did not flicker at all. It was a long time since Zhuo Mo had encountered such a troublesome opponent. The other's move was vicious. If he cut the other in half, then the other's sword energy would slice through his waist. He immediately blocked with the Shin axe in his right hand. Dong! An enormous sound and then the sparks flew. Zhuo Mo and Nie Chen both retreated at the same time. Nie Chen finally showed shock. The other's strength was so strong it almost surpassed his imagination. But what shocked his even more was that he guessed the other's identity. "I had not expected to encounter the master of Mo Cloud Sea here." Nie Chen stared at Zhuo Mo and said slowly. His mind was in disarray. He had never thought that he would have an opportunity to fight against Zhuo Mo. If it wasn't for the other's unique Sunshin power, Nie Chen would definitely never have guessed it. Mo Cloud Sea's territories were not large, but no one dared to underestimate their power. Zhuo Mo was presently of high status. Nie Chen found it hard to believe that he would explore a ruin personally. Yet what shocked him even more was Zhuo Mo's strength. It had long not been a secret that Zhuo Mo cultivated Sunshin power. Yet when people listed the many experts of Mo Cloud Sea, they would, for some reason, exclude Zhuo Mo. In everyone's view, how could Zhuo Mo, now the master of Mo Cloud Sea, fight on the front lines like in the past? When people judged Zhuo Mo, it was usually along the lines of a natural leader, the brain of Mo Cloud Sea. His talent in seal scripts and Mo matrices shocked the world. He had caused Mo Cloud C to become a rival for Tian Huan in seal formations and talismans. His unique inscription art could allow Xiuzhe to possess the great power of Mo matrices. His bloodline awakening technique caused countless Mo experts to be created under his command. Mo physiques were common in the present Mo Cloud C. He had forged the first pseudo-Shin weapon, and created the concept of Shin device raiments, a unique Shin device that had never appeared before. Just as everyone had been trying to forge Shin device raiments, he forged the first battle general Shin device raiment. He was a person had to grasp. He was filled with the greediness and worldliness of the common folk. Many times, people would feel that he was just a minor character. Yet he possessed astounding charisma and countless geniuses loyally followed him. Under so many halos, his individual strength was not so eye-catching. But, having just experienced it personally, Nie Chen was astounded. He suddenly thought of a person that was so similar to Zhua Mo eldest Shixiang, Lin Qian. No, now present sect leader Lin Qian. Lin Qian, who also possessed talent in all fields, Lin Qian, who is also individual strong, was so similar to Zhua Mo. Nie Chen unconsciously shook his head. How could this guy compare to the talented eldest Shixiang? He focused and threw out the stray thoughts. The shock disappeared. His mind returned to calmness. His eyes suddenly lit up. He suddenly realized that this was a chance from the heavens. In front of him was the master of Mo Cloud C. If he killed Zhua Mo Cloud C would end up a headless snake. For Kun Luen, this meant that they would be relieved of a great worry. His gaze became hot. Strong belief filled his heart. His flying sword seemed to feel his thoughts and secretly flew back into his hand. He gripped the flying sword and shouted inside, Kun Luen. Zhua Mo was slightly surprised. The guy in front of him suddenly seemed to be burning, all of his power being released. He was burning without any consideration for the consequences. In a blink, Zhua Mo understood the other's intentions. He couldn't help but feel some respect. Among all the opponents that he had experienced, Kun Luen was the most troublesome and the strongest. These fanatics were a group of madmen. Zhua Mo's expression was solemn, his killing intent undisguised. He thought of the sect leader, thought of the Shishu. Pain spread through his heart and his murderousness increased. Everything about the Zhua family past seemed to be scenes he saw through a veil of mist. He always lacked an emotional connection to them. Except for Ague. Yet to him, the years at Wukong's sword sect had been real and he had truly lived them. The care that the sect leader and the Shishu had given him flashed in front of his eyes. Those lively figures, those seemingly stern but concerned scolds would never appear again. Yes, Kun Luen was worthy of respect. But so what? When they caused the deaths of the sect leaders and the others, the grudge had been set. No matter if it was him, eldest Shixiang or Luoli, there was only one path with Kun Luen, fight to the death. Destroying Kun Luen was his fate. The killing intent in Zhua Mo's body had never been so strong. He finally understood why he never liked Kun Luen, even without the incident of Wukong's sword sect. Because this Kun Luen that was so worthy of respect, they only had Kun Luen on their minds. Even in the past, as the head of the Xiuzhe, Kun Luen only thought of Kun Luen. Everything else in their eyes were ants. They would be sacrificed, and wounded. Their so-called Kun Luen was only that little group of core Kun Luen disciples on Kun Luen Mountain. For Kun Luen, they could sacrifice their familial feelings, they could sacrifice everything. They were a group of madmen. This was a group of madmen, prejudiced madmen that had sank into their glory. Suddenly, Zhua Mo felt that this Kun Luen was not worthy of being feared. His gaze suddenly became cold. The fury just now disappeared. An enormous dragon claw appeared in his hand. Anti-dragon claw. The infamous Sky Missouri weapon that had dominated the world was being held in Zhua Mo's hand and pointed at Nie Chen. A peerlessly vicious presence slammed in all directions. The anti-dragon claw that had been revitalized, once again recovering the aura of its past and showed its glorious appearance. It did not have the vast presence of the Shin device raiments, yet the unique, vicious and cruel presence of the anti-dragon claw still made it an astounding weapon. Zhuemo had thought about reforging the anti-dragon claw, but he found that the energies of the anti-dragon claw were melded together and the difficulty of a reforge would be great. The anti-dragon claw was still one of the strongest weapons outside of Shin devs. Zhuemo did not choose the green pulse string but the anti-dragon claw because only it suited the killing intent he felt now. Niechin did not retreat, his gaze burning and mad. The rebellious anti-dragon claw was unusually obedient in Zhuemo's hands. The present Zhuemo was far from the Zhuemo of the past. His Shin power rippling, Zhuemo held the leg bone of the anti-dragon claw. His body suddenly gave off great golden light. He was like the sun, unable to be looked at directly. For the first time in several years, Zhuemo burned his Shin power without any reservation. No one knew how strong his Shin power was now. People only saw him going to Golden Crow Camp and managing the affairs of Mo Cloud Sea. No one knew that his daily cultivation had never stopped. His right hand could constantly provide Shin power to him. The growth of his Shin power was almost unimaginable. He refined his Shin technique again and again. He studied the various skills recorded on the sun gold leaf. He knew how his present accomplishments had come about. He treasured this. He knew that he was not a genius, and if he wanted to get in front of others, he could only work harder than others. No one knew that the sweat and effort he put in surpassed normal people. Under that laughing and cursing face, he had powerful heart. Big Sister Bird was very angry. The consequences would be serious. For the little ones, this was an absolute rule. While Big Sister Bird seemed to be sleeping every day as though this would continue to the end of time, that undefeatable dominance still showed from her great sleeping posture. As the big sister of the little ones, Big Sister Bird was magnificent. While the other little ones were trying to gain favor with Zhuemo, Silly Bird had seen little Mo guess nouveau riche behavior numerous times. One needed qualifications to be proud. But what made the little ones really respect her was Silly Bird's conduct. Domineering, direct, Big Sister Bird never talked reason, only with strength. Even a person as proud as 10th grade would docilely go up and fawn in front of Big Sister Bird. But right now, Big Sister Bird's authority had been challenged. A feathered bastard. Killing intent formed a storm in Silly Bird's narrowed eyes. Raising her head, Silly Bird thought back. How many years had it been since she had encountered such an idiot? Silly Bird focused on her reminiscing and didn't even look at the gaping Tan Su. Time was really a butcher's knife. In the past, I was still at a pure and tender age. Feathered bastard. Silly Bird's eyes twitched. Her reminiscing was interrupted by the words. Almost tangible killing energy shrouded her body like mist. For some reason, Tan Su suddenly had a feeling that the other's figure seemed to grow much bigger and look down on him. Shrouded in the shadows, the face could not be seen. Only a pair of bloody red eyes lit up in the dark. An enormous pressure rushed at him and he felt his breathing stop. Unconsciously, cold sweat soaked his back. Blinking, he forcefully shook his head and the illusion in front of him disappeared. As expected, it was an illusion. For some reason, he sighed in relief. He couldn't help but mock himself. It seemed that he was too nervous. Was it because it was the first time he encountered such a powerful Ling beast? Then he felt ashamed for his timidity. He actually felt afraid of a feathered bastard. It was laughable. So laughable. What he did not notice was that spiraling flame mark on Silly Bird's beak had not disappeared. Chapter 803, Solitary Dance of the Great Dark Will Phoenix. Silly Bird's wings spread wide, her figure disappearing. In the next moment, she appeared in front of Tan Su. So fast. Tan Zu's pupils contracted, the air in front of him twisting as a red shadow charged towards him with a thunderous presence. The bird beak suddenly released a dot of fire. A strong feeling of danger suddenly rose. Tan Zu's expression changed slightly. Without any hesitation, the flying sword in his hand shot out a ball of fire. Like lightning, it headed towards that incoming foreboding flame. Unlike before, the sword flame right now was dark red. Sword flame death. The tip of the flying sword seemed to be ignited. A streak of flame headed for Silly Bird's beak. The two dots of fire collided in the air. The dark red flame suddenly exploded. 120 sword energies instantly exploded. The sword flame death was the upgraded version of the sword flame. It compressed 3,600 sword energies into 120. Each sword flame death energy was made from 30 sword energies. Every sword energy of the sword flame death was deadly. After being compressed, the sword energies of the sword flame death were a dark red and rippled with sword essence. Die! Feathered bastard! Tan Su roared with laughter. This killing move was astounding in power, and also astoundingly difficult. With his present strength, he was not able to successfully complete sword flame death every time. The joy in his heart at being able to successfully execute it at such a critical moment could be imagined. Die! Looking at the dark red sword essences exploding on Silly Bird's beak, he knew he won. No one was able to stop this move. Feeling reassured, Tan Su looked on with anticipation. 120 sword energies of the sword death flame would tear apart this horrid feathered bastard. Everything was finished. Suddenly, he saw a swirling pattern suddenly light up on Silly Bird's beak. His heart couldn't help but jump. Wait! Boom! The flame mark exploded and turned into a pillar of fire that headed straight towards him. The blinding fire shot into the air. All of the dark red sword essences were immediately swallowed by the erupting flame. Tan Su's mind was blank. All he could see were red flames that were twisting and turning. Before he could react, he was swallowed by the spiraling tower of flame. Damn it! Tan Su shook. He was trapped in a world of fire. If he didn't have Shin power protecting him, he would have been burnt to ash long ago. However, even with the support of Shin power, he was not safe. His Shin power was being expended at an astounding rate. This kind of red flame was unusually hot. Even through the barrier of Shin power, he could feel the astounding heat. A thread of fire rose. What kind of flame was this? How could it consume his sword flame death's sword energies? That was impossible. His mind was a complete mess, but he knew that this was not the time to consider this. He had to first flee for his life. Tan Su's urge to fight disappeared. There was only one thought in his mind. Flee, flee as fast as possible. Was this feathered bastard an ancient beast? The flame that had erupted without warning was something that even the sword energies of the sword flame death could not avoid. What was this bird? The ghost mist child's originally snowy white face paled even more as his little heart shook. Lucky, lucky. He had seen how Silly Bird had spat out a wave of angry red flames that had consumed the other's sword essence and body. As an ancient warrior, the ghost mist child had seen people spit out flames countless times before. So why was he so shocked? The ghost mist child was knowledgeable. This completely red flame looked ordinary, but it had great origins. Phoenix flame. He had guessed before that Silly Bird was a phoenix, and now he was even more sure. The phoenix flame was unlike any other flame. Its attributes were unique. Even in the ancient era, the phoenix flame was something that would cause people to pale upon hearing the name. More importantly, this was his natural enemy. So scary. He was actually on the same side as his bane. Thinking about his future days, the ghost mist child suddenly felt that life was not as good as he imagined. Silly Bird detected that Tan Su, trapped in the flame, wanted to escape. Her magnificent eyes became half-lidded as her spread wings lightly flapped. If other people were watching as bystanders, they would feel that the flapping of the wings was nonchalant and careless. Yet the ghost mist child who had been paying attention all this time watched closely. Rhythm. Silly Bird's wings were flapping at an indescribably unique rhythm. This was definitely some powerful Shin methodology. When it affected his own situation, the ghost mist child watched closely. Silly bird seemed to just have flapped her wings a few times, but in reality, her feet had imperceptibly moved position a few times. When people reached this level, any seemingly normal movement would contain mysteries. The ghost mist child thought hard to search his distant memories. He seemed to think of something. The flames were like a cage. No matter how Tan-Su charged and fought, he could not break out of the flames. An invisible field of force spread as Silly Bird flapped her wings and moved her feet. Tan-Su's sweat dripped from his head as he panicked. Red flames were all around him. He seemed to be situated in an endless sea of fire. No matter which direction he charged in, the flames seemed to be extend without end. This was strange. There was something going on. He knew that he was definitely in the enemy's trap. That ball of flame had definitely been a trap. No matter how he channeled Shin power, his sword scriptures would enter into the flames and disappear. His Shin power was being used up at an astounding rate. If this continued, he would soon be unable to hold up. Without the protection of Shin power, the flames would burn him to ashes. Was he going to die today? Strangely, this thought suddenly flashed through his mind. He couldn't help but still. Silly Bird with her half-lidded eyes moved in small steps like that of an old lady out on an after-meal stroll. She would occasionally wave her wings a few times nonchalantly. The bright red flames twisted and moved like a monster. Anyone who watched it felt fear. The black gold seal soldier swallowed and said hoarsely, "Is this the solitary dance of the great Darkwolf Phoenix?" He knew that if he was within this ball of flame, he would have been melted into liquid. He really could not offend Big Sister Bird. The clever black gold seal soldier wondered if he should give up more food as tribute to gain favor with Big Sister Bird. Sunshine sighed and said sympathetically, "So pitiful." The phoenix flame was just a little more than a zhang in diameter, yet no matter how Tan-Su fought, he could not escape. Too scary. With the anti-dragon claw in his hand, the killing intent inside Zhuo Mo exploded as though the flames were fanned by wind. Zhuo Mo's eyes flashed coldly. Gripping the anti-dragon claw with one hand, he leapt into the air and swung downwards at Nie Chen as though he was holding a large axe. A suddenly layer of golden light appeared on the anti-dragon claw and the enormous axe of light formed from the tips of the anti-dragon claw. In a blink, the Sun Shin axe turned from a one-handed axe into a two-handed axe. The axe was thousands of catties heavy. Everyone heard the piercing howl. The anti-dragon claw was a vicious item to start with, and after being fed with Shin power, it was peerless in its viciousness. The wind it created, as it cut through the air, was like the howling of 10,000 ghosts. Even the sky started to darken. The ghost mist in the surroundings melted like snow in hot water. Shin power and killing intent mixed inside. Zhuo Mo threw all of his strength behind this blow. Nie Chen's expression changed, but then he recovered his calm. This blow was the perfect melding of dominance and killing intent. The world changed. It was just one axe, but it seemed to take over the entire sky. Suddenly, Nie Chen seemed to see a mountainous and ancient hero towering over the world. Under this axe, all shook. It was the first time he felt he was as minuscule and insignificant as an ant. But he was a mentally strong person. His mind shook but then recovered. In front of such a peerless blow, Nie Chan's pride was stimulated. The flying sword in his hands suddenly lit up with dazzling light. An astounding amount of Shin power was channeled in. The flying sword was unable to tolerate it and started to melt on the surface. The seal scriptures were being damaged. But he did not seem to mind it. His expression was solemn as he looked at the astounding blow. The flying sword quickly turned into liquid metal, but, for the moment, it still maintained the shape of a flying sword. Blinding light quickly dimmed. Nie Chen gripped the long rod of liquefying metal. Nie Chen's eyes were wide in anger as he shouted. For Kun Luan. The liquid metal in his hand hummed and shook. Like a bolt of lightning, it shot out upwards. Hearing the words, Kun Luan, the anger in Zhuo Mo's heart suddenly erupted. Unprecedented killing intent and anger immediately swallowed him like an erupting volcano. Every fiber of muscle was shaking, every hair standing on end. Suemo felt as though there was a raging fire inside his body. Those scenes that he would never see again appeared in fragments through his mind. Wukong Mountain, sect leader, Shirshu, Shidi, Shimi. Suemo felt as though there was a stone on his heart. In the end, this kind of discomfort reached a threshold. All of the anger and killing intent rushed through the threshold and erupted. Kun, your mom. A furious bellow thundered out. He did not notice that tears were streaming off his face. The berserk Suemo was like a god. Not good. The ghost mist child exclaimed as he paled. Blinding lights suddenly lit up in the sky. The energies were like rain droplets that hit Suemo's body. Jinji. The Totem Colosseum's Jinji were activated. The ghost mist child paled and went to leap towards Suemo in the sky with the intentions of blocking the Jinji for Suemo. Darren actually was strong enough to activate the Jinji of the Totem Colosseum. The stunned ghost mist child's pupils suddenly contracted and his body froze where he stood. The energies hit Suemo's body but Suemo did not seem to feel it. The light coming off his body suddenly grew and formed a ball of light multiple times bigger than Suemo. How was it possible? The ghost mist child gaped, his mind blank. More lights appeared in the sky as though stars were being ignited. The light energies rained down on Suemo in the sky from all directions. The berserk Suemo did not feel it. He glared, his face twisted, every muscle tensed. An enormous ball of light covered him. Lightning flashed, fire burned, and ice cut within the ball of light. In the ball of light, the anti-dragon claw was so excited it shook. In the sky, there was only this figure. In everyone's eyes, there was only this shadow. The shuddering howls of the anti-dragon claw could be heard through the entire battlefield. With the terrifying and vast power of the enormous ball of light, Suemo rushed down at an astounding speed. Crashing down. The trembling power spread, and the ground of the entire Totem Colosseum uncontrollably vibrated. Like an enraged ancient beast, Suemo was like a god descending to earth with a vicious and domineering presence conquering all around. The axe swung down. Chapter 804, Victory. Nye Chen was stunned dumb by the terrifying figure in his sight. Suddenly, he understood why eldest Shixiang Lin Qian had always said that Imo Cloud Sea would become their greatest enemy. Everyone in Kunlun had disagreed. Everyone had not said anything, and they had simply dismissed the words. Based on what? With what could Imo Cloud Sea rival Kunlun? How could that poor and rural sect challenge they who were geniuses? Only today when he saw that figure which was like a god in the sky and that ball of light that contained astounding power did he suddenly understand. Mo Cloud Sea would definitely become a great enemy of Kunlun. This vicious figure would become the nightmare of Kunlun. He had never heard of such an attack with such presence. He had never seen such a terrifying shouja. Even the strongest disciples in the sect would not give him such a great impact. It was not just strength, but that presence that was completely different from them. Suemo was like an inhuman monster. On him, all conventions were defied. Such a terrifying person. The air around Nye Chen was turbulent. The flow of strong currents of air caused everything he saw to be twisted. He had an understanding that under this blow, he would be reduced to dust. His expression became calm and grave on his upraised face. Through his twisted vision, he saw that vicious dominance. In this moment, countless thoughts spun through his mind. The sect did not place enough attention on Mo Cloud Sea. Suemo was the strongest of Mo Cloud Sea. To destroy Mo Cloud Sea, they had to first kill Suemo. It was a pity, there was no time. He sighed inside. Through his twisted vision, he still could clearly see that the attack he had channeled all of his power into powerlessly smash onto the other's axe energy. It didn't even cause a ripple as though it had encountered an unshakable mountain. The destructive golden axe energy immediately took over his entire field of view. He was unable to communicate what had happened here back to the sect. It really was regretful. Kunlun. Nye Chen sighed out the two words. Before he finished, he was drowned by the enormous wave of axe energy. The light dissipated. Zhuo Mo panted. His entire body was soaked by sweat as though he had just climbed out of a river. Sweat streamed off his body like little streams. He motionlessly maintained his extended swinging posture. His bellowing panting could be heard everywhere. In front of him, an enormous gully 5 li wide started from under his feet and reached into the distance. A rough estimate would be at least 50 li. The scene was startling to see, as though an enormous wound had been torn open on the ground. The gully was so deep the bottom could not be seen. The two sides of the gully flashed with the light as it reflected off the glass-like surface, and many places were still giving off smoke. Everyone was stunned by this blow. The ghost mist child's mouth was wide open, but he wasn't able to make a sound. This was the Totem Colosseum. When was the last time the Totem Colosseum had been damaged? His mind was completely blank and he couldn't remember anything. However, he knew that it had been many years since he had seen it. A long time later, he recovered from his daze. Suddenly, he realized that this young master of his was definitely something. Zhuo Mo's astounding blow attracted everyone's attention, even 10th grade and Zhenling Meng in the middle of their fight. When they saw Zhuo Mo's terrifying presence like that of a god, 10th grade and Zhenling Meng unconsciously stopped fighting. 10th grade felt his blood heat up as he watched. That dominance, that ferocity, that unstoppable presence, wasn't that what he had been pursuing? That was a fight. That was a truly strong person. 10th grade's morale suddenly increased, his fighting spirit rising. The domineering and unstoppable figure was deeply imprinted in his mind. 10th grade. Only that domineering presence was suitable for the name 10th grade. 10th grade suddenly howled, his Shen power rippling as his 100 sacrificial soul-killing sword came out again. Stimulated, 10th grade became even more mad and excited. The power of the 100 sacrificial soul-killing sword suddenly grew. Zhenling Meng's mind was thrown into disarray by the scene that she had just seen. Especially when she saw that Nye Chen Shixiang's last attack was ineffective against the other's vicious axe energy. Nye Chen Shixiang died where he was standing, and the blood drained completely from her face. That figure like that of a god continued to appear in her mind. She felt her heart was dead. The other was so strong it surpassed the limits of humans. With victory decided in that battle, the deadlock between the two sides was immediately changed. 10th grade did not have any thoughts of showing mercy to females. He was vicious, one move coming faster than the last. Once a vicious sword scripture like the 100 sacrificial soul-killing sword gained the upper hand, the enemy would feel that the pressure was slowly suffocating them. In an excited battle frenzy, 10th grade felt that something in his mind broke and an unprecedented feeling of pleasure rose. His mind turned, and 10th grade used his killing move again. 100 sacrificial soul-killing sword. The dark red howled as it flew towards Zhenling Meng, whose mind was not focused. The bloody figure that was as light as silk disappeared, and shadows appeared and disappeared on the dark red surface of the crescent. With the appearance of every shadow, the killing energy of the crescent would increase. 7 shadows. The killing energy of the crescent had reached an astounding level. Zhenling Meng's sword energies would crumble when they touched the crescent. A spray of blood into the air. Zhenling Meng lost all signs of life. When Zhenling Meng fell to the ground, Silly Bird slowly withdrew the phoenix flame. Where the phoenix flame had been, there was nothing, not even a speck of dust. Silly Bird walked her bird walk with her head high and looking to the side as though nothing had happened. In the sword guard hall, there were countless jade swords hanging. Each jade sword was about the width of a hand, had the name of a disciple written on it. The hilt of the swords were tied with red rope to the beams of the hall. There were countless jade swords hanging in the hall. Suddenly, pop pop pop, 3 jade swords shattered without warning. The disciple standing guard in the hall changed expression. This meant that there were 3 Kunlun disciples who had been killed. He hurriedly picked up the fragments. When he saw the 3 names, his expression turned ashen. 3 children of Kunlun. 3 of the children Kunlun had been killed. How was it possible? Who was able to kill 3 children of Kunlun at once? There were only 50 children of Kunlun in all of Kunlun. Each child of Kunlun had glorious status in the sect. They were astoundingly powerful and any one of them could cause a storm on the outside world. But 3 children of Kunlun had died at the same time. This was the first time ever since Kunlun had been founded. Realizing the severity of the problem, the disciple on duty sprinted out madly. Not long after, the news that 3 children of Kunlun had been killed spread through all of Kunlun. Kunlun shook. Zhuo fell down to the ground on his behind, his arms spread as he fell back. He ignored the flow of sweat and panted like a parched fish. All of his power had been used up. The exhaustion that came along caused his mind to turn blank. A long time later, he finally focused. His accumulated emotions had been vented and his mind was clear. He would always remember the grudge of his sect, yet he was not as simple and direct with his emotions as Wei Sheng. Shixiang's personality was simple and direct, he had used a sword oath to understand his heart. For Zhuo who repressed these feelings. After a long time, it became an obstacle affecting his mental progress. When he used this method to vent all the matters that had accumulated his mind became clear, and his strength took another step forward. His body that was void of power, a clear mind, this strange yet beautiful feeling made him feel comfortable. He knew that after this battle, his strength would go up another level. There were constantly people coming out of the 5 halls. But anyone that were not on their side were immediately killed. Agui was like a ghost. Usually, just as the enemy came out, she would appear like a ghost behind the other's back and with a snap she would break the other's neck. The Black Gold Seal soldier was not willing to show weakness, especially after he saw 10th grade's display. His mind at disequilibrium, he fought even harder. The Ghost Mist child would occasionally participate to remind people he was there. However, the strongest member of the Great Ghost Mist tribe, the Hall Master of Mist Hall, now was in a situation where he had to remind people of his existence. It really was a pitiful matter. However, whenever he saw that silly bird out of the corner of his eyes that seemed to be napping, he immediately felt that it would be better to not be too attention-catching. Why had he ended up on a team with his natural enemy? He cried inside. Most of the experts were killed. Those that were coming out were average in strength. Facing Agui and the Black Gold Seal soldiers' powerful attacks, they usually were killed within 1 move. Both of these people were vicious people who killed like cutting grass. It made the good child Sunshine unable to look, and was still unable to look. When Wei Sheng, Luoli, Zhongru, and the others came out of the 5 halls, their strength immediately grew. The Black Gold Seal soldier and Agui were even more reckless and vicious in their attacks. In any case, if they failed there were still others that would follow up with another attack. However, when every person came out, they would first go to look at Zhuomo's 50 li long gully created by his axe swing. They all gasped in shock. The guards looked reverently at Zhuo who had collapsed onto the ground. At the side, the Ghost Mist child occasionally spoke of Master's heroic bearing, spittle flying as he talked excitedly. As expected of Darren. He usually did not act, but once he did, the results were always astounding. It was a pity that these people staring reverently at Zhuo did not know the inner conflict of their idol. The gazes of these people, so good, now you know your boss is great and bright. Oh no, my arm seems to be dislocated, should I tell them this? That is so embarrassing. Oh, let me first enjoy this and then say. Chapter 805, Mo Cloud Sea is coming. Kunlun. The death of 3 children of Kunlun was a great shock to Kunlun. Every child of Kunlun had been picked carefully, passing through numerous tests. All of them possessed astounding strength and talent. Each of them were Kunlun's greatest wealth. 3 children of Kunlun had died. Its Lotus Sutra temple's ancient ruins. Chao Xin's expression was serious. The death of 3 children of Kunlun was a great loss to Kunlun. In Chao Xin's view, this kind of loss was even greater than the loss of several jie. The selection of the children of Kunlun was extremely complex and strict. What was almost certain was that the children of Kunlun would become the strongest fighters for Kunlun. All of them had a bright future. If a jie was lost, it could be taken back. But if a child of Kunlun was killed, it was almost impossible to find a replacement. The children of Kunlun were picked from all Kunlun disciples. The loss of any of these geniuses was irreplaceable. If they wanted to replenish their numbers, they had to increase the range of selection. However, the loyalty of the genius youths selected from other sects under Kunlun was doubtful. Once Kunlun lost the unity that they relied on, then Kunlun was no longer Kunlun. Chao Xian knew this better than most people, and this was why he was worried. 3 children of Kunlun being killed at the same time, this meant the enemy was very strong. It's Mo Cloud C. Lin Qian spat out. His expression was normal, as though he was not affected at all. Most likely. Chao Xian agreed with Lin Qian's speculation. He said gravely, other than Mo Cloud C, no one has the strength. Tianhuan is not focused on this ruin, and the manpower they sent out is limited. How is everyone? Lin Qian suddenly asked. Chao Xian understood what Lin Qian meant. Everyone is angry, they want to get revenge for Nie Chen and the others. Nie Chen is a friendly person, and there are many disciples that like Jinling Meng. Lin Qian nodded. Send them all out to gain experience. Chao Xian paled. Isn't that? Lin Qian waved his hand and said calmly, even the best talent, without any tempering, cannot grow into a truly strong tree. They have good talent, but lack experience. Many of them were not outstanding in the past. They need time to adjust to the change in their status. Many of the children of Kunlun had not been outstanding in the Ling Power era because their talent in cultivating Ling Power had been ordinary. Yet after entering the era of Shen Power, their talents at cultivating Shen Power had been uncovered and their status had completely transformed. The changes in their status and identity had come too suddenly. Many people had not adjusted to the change. Lin Qian was very displeased with this. He felt that the children of Kunlun now did not have the spirit or demeanor of the previous core disciples of Kunlun. In that era, the core Kunlun disciples had pride that came from their bones. They could not tolerate other people being stronger than them. This spirit urged them on to demand more of themselves. Chao Xian understood, but he said worriedly, but this way, the fatalities will be high. Lin Qian said coolly, 50 children of Kunlun, I will be satisfied if 5 of them become top experts. I do not need flowers growing in the greenhouse, and Kunlun doesn't need them. I understand. Chao Xian did not speak further. Zuomo and the others stood guard in front of the palace gates, killing whoever came in. There wasn't any faction that could fight against them. Soon, they were the only ones left in the entire ruins. Finally, no one is going to compete with us. Zuomo's sigh was filled with satisfaction, and extremely smug. The other people laughed. They had taken over the entire place. Which palace should we go to? Zuomo asked the Ghost Mist Child. The Ghost Mist Child said and then thought, not the Winter Palace, there once had been a strong warrior from the Sun tribe that died when he entered the Winter Palace. The other palaces, all of them should be all right. As he spoke, the Ghost Mist Child's voice became smaller and smaller. Zuomo's face turned dark and he glared angrily, you say you were familiar? The Ghost Mist Child said timidly, that, actually. Zuomo rubbed his forehead and said. All right, it was all the same. He thought. Among his group, the people who played with fire were the most common, so he said, let's go to the Summer Palace. The other people naturally did not have any objections. The bronze doors to the Summer Palace were carved with suns and blooming flowers. When Zuomo's hand touched the bronze doors, the sun and the flowers suddenly lit up and the palace gates soundlessly opened. Bright sunlight came out of the palace gates. It was completely white, and everything narrowed their eyes. Moments later, when everyone's eyes adjusted to the strong light, they finally saw the scene inside. Emotion Temple. A figure slowly rose out of the blood pool. If Wei Xing saw this figure, he would be astounded. Wu Lu. The Wu Lu who had fallen at his sword was still alive. Wu Le's face was ashen and he wore a grimace. Yoshi Yaku laughed lightly. Who did you encounter that you got beaten so badly? Wei Sheng. Wu Lu had an expression of respect. Everyone's expression shifted. I almost wasn't able to come back, Wu Lu said with lingering fear. Wei Sheng is really one of the strongest sword Xiao, so strong. To be able to escape with your life after fighting Wei Sheng, be satisfied, Yoshi Yaku said with a twist of his mouth. Everyone had expressions of agreement. Wu Le's complexion was pale but his eyes were bright and flashed with wondrous light. I have understood a lot in the fight against Wei Sheng. In half a year, I will definitely have a breakthrough. The others heard this and all showed expressions of joy. If Wu Lu grew stronger, the Emotion Temple would also grow stronger. The conflicts in the Mo territories had continued. All the factions fought and had not stopped. The Emotion Temple's conflicts with the other factions had not stopped, but continuous battle would cause the Emotion Temple to grow stronger. The Mo gods of the Emotion Temple increased from 3 to 5. And the territory of the Emotion Temple had multiplied. The Emotion Temple had become one of the strongest factions in the 100 Savage Realm. The strength of the Emotion Temple caused the Mo that lived in the area they ruled to have relatively good lives. Their belief grew more steady and the Mo gods were even stronger. However, the battle between the Mo Martial Alliance and Mo Cloud Sea had shocked them. The loss of the two top battle generals of the Mo Martial Alliance caused the Mo Martial Alliance to start declining. The skirmishes at the borders increased and Gongzi Shi alone could not deal with all of them. In the span of a few months, the territories of the Mo Martial Alliance had shrank by a fifth. The Mo golds of the Emotion Temple watched with rapidly beating hearts. The Mo Martial Alliance and the Emotion Temple were factions of the same level. However, just due to one defeat, their situation had rapidly worsened. Everyone knew that the Mo Martial Alliance was probably going to end up a second-tier faction. Unless another new top battle general entered the Mo Martial Alliance, the Mo Martial Alliance's fate was sealed. With only one top battle general, it could not avoid the fate of its territories shrinking. The present skirmishes were just the beginning. The leaders of the Emotion Temple watched this and felt the pressure rise. The Emotion Temple had 3 top battle generals. The chief Mo god, Yoshi Yaku, and the 4th Mo god. The Rhinoceros Mo god and Wu Lu were able to fight and led troops, but there was still a great difference in skill from them to be truly top battle generals. Mo Cloud Sea. No one had thought that Mo Cloud Sea was so strong. Bihan alone had killed 2 top battle generals. This was terrifying. Also, the Emotion Temple had interacted with Sua Mo before and still had a memorable impression of him. They knew that with Sua Mo's personality, he would never do an unprofitable thing. Bihan's Sin Battalion would definitely have a way of being replenished. Otherwise, Sua Mo definitely would not agree for Bihan to make such a sacrifice. The loss of 2 top battle generals caused the defense lines of the Mo Martial Alliance to be in constant retreat. While Bihan no longer fought, the Tangzi Battalion, a Zhagu Battalion, and the Grey Camp were like 3 sharp daggers that cut up the defense lines of the Mo Martial Alliance. Lightning fast, Mo Cloud Sea took down 13 Jia of various sizes. The Mo Martial Alliance seemed to be flee when they heard the name Mo Cloud Sea. They could not muster up any resistance. Helpless, the Mo Martial Alliance could only retreat and give up large amounts of territory. Mo Cloud Sea seemed even more emboldened. However, it was not that the other factions were not prowling about. In their view, Bihan had already returned to Mo Cloud Sea. The 3 battalions that were roaming about now were not Sin Battalion. They did not think highly of those battalions, and they also had the advantage of being on home territory. An alliance of more than 40 small factions formed a great army intending to take down this piece of meat. However, Tang Fei and the other battalions let them have a taste of true power. On the battlefield, the Tungzi battalion fought 21 consecutive battles without sleep or rest. They won all 21. Grey Camp sneaked a long way and suddenly appeared behind the enemy. They took over 30 main towns and burned almost 70% of the supply bases. A Zhao battalion's movements forced the alliance to split up their forces. Then he met up with Tang Fei and defeated the main forces of the alliance. Corpses piled in mountains. Blood flowing in rivers. The alliance immediately crumpled. Yet, unexpectedly, the 3 battalions did not rest at all. Like wolves, they continued to pursue the fleeing soldiers. The collapsing alliance lost all fighting spirit. They only knew to flee, furiously flee. Following the defeated forces, the 3 battalions, without almost any effort, took down one Jia after another. 44 Jia. When the numbers were finally calculated, the Mo territories were shocked again. The strong fighting ability of Mo Cloud Sea caused the entire world to look at them. They were not Bihan. Except for Zhao, everyone else had been unknown before this. Yet in this string of battles, they had displayed strong offensive power, and revealed the high level of their battle general training. They thought about the previous Ma Fan battalion who had become famous due to one battle. None of these 4 battalions were weak. These battalions were different in their styles, but they had many traits in common: strong military regulation and a hardy spirit. The entire Mo territories were shouting in shock, Mo Cloud Sea was coming. Chapter 806, Summer Palace. The burning bright sun, the blooming sea of flowers, the vibrantly growing plants, the thunderstorms that came and left suddenly. It really was summer. Zhuo and the others tried to find a way out of the sea of flowers and the forest. Occasionally, rain would pour down on them and soak them completely. However, with their strength, this was like taking a sightseeing tour. The bright sun, the scent of fragrant flowers, the babbling flow of water. There was no danger. They didn't even encounter one large animal, much less any poison miasma or mist. Yet after 20 hours had passed and they still hadn't found a way out, everyone understood that this sea of flowers and trees were not as wonderful as imagined. So hot, someone couldn't help but complain. The sun was bright like fire. Even though the branches of the trees, the burning heat still made people feel uncomfortable. Zhuo's mind moved. He also felt a wave of relentless heat. He had not noticed it and he only realized a problem when he heard someone complain. With their strength, they should not feel cold or heat. Why would they feel hot? There was something strange. Raising his head to look at the sun in the sky, Zhuo frowned and called everyone to a stop. This is not right. We have walked for 20 hours, covering at least 700 li, but there are still no signs we are getting out. This sun is also very strange. Everyone feels the heat. Let's talk and see if we can find anything. Zhuo threw out the problem. Zhongru suddenly opened his eyes. The sun is problematic. Everyone's eyes immediately turned towards Zhongru. Zhongru's sixth sense was unparalleled in its sensitivity. If he said there was a problem, then there was a problem. Zhongru's expression was grave as he slowly said, within the light of the sun, there is a kind of power similar to wish power. Wish power. Everyone changed expressions in fear. Just the term was enough to make their hairs stand on end. The wish power of the Diana Xiao had always been a very mysterious power. The descriptions of wish power were usually along the lines of malicious. Among the many methods of the Diana Xiao that admired righteousness and honesty, wish power was special. It was innately a malicious power. In the understanding of many people, wish power was like a toxin. Zhongru cultivated wish power, and the rare, Buddha abandoning death wish, at that. This was not a secret in Mo Cloud Sea, but usually, people did not see Zhongru use wish power. When they heard Zhongru say that the sunlight contained a power similar to wish power, everyone's expressions changed. No one wanted to touch that strange power. Zhongru continued, however, this power is very weak and hard to detect. Zuo, Wei Sheng, and the others closed their eyes to feel it. Zuo quickly found it. As expected, there was a very weak wisp of a strange power within the strong sunlight. This wisp of power was unique. It could ignore the defenses of Shin equipment and permeate the body. Zuo sank his mind into his body. A short while later, he found that weak wish power inside his body. The wish power was extremely weak. If he was not focused on finding it, it most likely would be hard to discover. And it was this weak wish power that made him feel relentless heat. So strong. Zuo was alarmed. The danger of wish power could be seen from how it had penetrated his body without him knowing it. He channeled Shin power and tried to force the wish power inside his body out. But unexpectedly, no matter how he channeled wish power, that thin thread did not move. It sat motionlessly in his body. Zuo gritted his teeth. The Sun Shin power inside his body wrapped around the wish power. When the Sun Shin power twisted with the wish power, it was unable to immediately burn away the wish power. The burning process was extremely slow. It took 20 breaths before that hair-thin strand of wish power in his body was burned away. Zuo was shocked. When he opened his eyes, he saw that Wei Sheng Shixiang's expression was similarly grave. Agui, Tseng Lianer and Luo Li were all right, the little ones were fine, but the guards were helpless against the wish power. Let me try. Zhongru's expression was grave. His wish power was unlike the wish power from the sun. Zhongru's wish power was gray, and the wish power in the sunlight was a flaming red. Zhongru's wish power entered the body of a guard and rapidly charged towards the red wish power to quickly consume it. Very soon, the wish power in each of the guard's body was completely eliminated and the red lotus flower on Zhongru's forehead became even brighter. How do you feel? Zuo asked in concern. Zhongru gave a warm smile. With the similarities to wish power, it is of great benefit to me. Darren, do not worry. Zuo's worries were eased. Since Zhongru was here, then this wish power was not a problem. He thought and then said, we will fly rather than walk. This way, it will not be easy to get lost. Before, they had been worried that flight would attract powerful monsters, so they had walked. After walking for more than 20 hours, they didn't know where they were anymore. This made Zuo decide to fly. The group flew into the sky. There was a vibrant forest under them that stretched out endlessly in their view. What made Zuo feel safe was that they had not encountered any strong monsters. But after flying for more than 80 hours, and traveling for almost 10,000 li, there was still no end to the flowers and forests. What shocked Zuo and the others was the light of the sun was much more poisonous in the sky. Every 4 hours, everyone had to land and have Zhongru help extract the wish power out of them. The red lotus on Zhongru's forehead became even brighter. Accompanied by his caved-in face, it was eerie. Zhongru's pupils became even deeper. Ever since he achieved wish power, his wish power had never grown. Wish power was unlike Ling or Shin power. It could not be cultivated and was closer to an abhina. But in the span of these few days, after consuming the wish power in everyone's bodies, his wish power had more than doubled. A gray mist twisted in his sea of consciousness. What a ghastly place. Zuo looked around. We've flown for so long and still hasn't left this forest. Are we in an illusory formation? Illusory formation? The ghost mist child asked curiously, what is that? You don't know what an illusory formation is? Zuo examined the ghost mist child with slight disbelief. Pu Yao spoke at this time, there were no illusory formations in the ancient era. No illusory formations during the ancient era? This time, it was Zuo's turn to be shocked. No way. For him, illusory formations were one of the most basic skills, a minor skill that everyone should know of. Of course, if it was a powerful illusory formation, it would be a troublesome matter. Illusory formations only appeared after Ling power, this is common knowledge. Puya would not pass on any chance to attack Suemo and said this with disdain. The ghost mist child stood in the middle with puzzlement. Seeing this, Suemo created an illusory formation as an example. The ghost mist child finally realized it and then said scornfully, using tricks like this to fool people are useless. Suemo was furious and then he pointed at the forest below. Then you tell me what this forest is. Ignorant. Puyao couldn't help but mock. Your knowledge only extends to illusory formatons. Humph. The skills of ancient warriors are those you cannot imagine. If I am not wrong, this has formed into a jie. Or, this was originally a jie and it was then modified. Suemo was dumbstruck. He stammered out, you are saying, this is actually a new jie? Yes. Puyao's eyes were filled with longing. The ancient warriors could steal the sky and snatch the sun, pluck stars, and change the moon. This jie should have been changed. This speculation was a great blow to Suemo's mind. He had met the strange Shur in the sealed extinction battlefield and thought he had a certain level of understanding of the greatness of the ancient ones. Now, he found that he had underestimated the strength of the ancient great ones. However, the ghost mist child should have more of a say in this matter. Suemo immediately turned around and looked at the ghost mist child. The summer palace is a jie. The ghost mist child nodded. It should be. The previous master liked creating spectacles, and hated things that fooled others. He had been the warrior of a tribe before and was knowledgeable. He raised his head to look at the sun and said uncertainly. I don't know where master got this sun from. If the people from the Sun tribe saw this, they would be jealous. This forest is probably something special as well. Suemo gaped as he listened. With a jia as a palace, to set up a sun, to create an endless forest. This was inhuman. In comparison, the so-called restricted grounds of the present large sects were just child's play. Suddenly, Lil Black who had been hanging of silly bird waved its antennae. Suemo's eyes immediately lit up. When Lil Black usually did this, it meant that there was treasure nearby. As expected, Lil Black slid down Silly Bird's body and then started to fly in a direction. Suemo called out and then hurriedly followed. Lil Black was very fast and nimble. Suemo and the others had to be alert as they followed closely behind. After flying about 20 li, Lil Black finally stopped and landed on a piece of scorched wood. Suemo was slightly surprised and then curiously examined the piece of wood. This wood was clearly old. Half of it was buried in the ground and half exposed to the air. The wood should have been the trunk of a large tree, about 3 chi in diameter. It was covered in lichen and looked very normal. Lil Black was holding on tightly to the wood in intoxication. Was there something special about the wood? Suemo was even more curious. He walked over and reached out to prepare to brush off the lichen growing on the wood. Acham! When Suemo's hand touched the lichen, suddenly, an arch of electricity flashed and struck out at his fingertips. His hand went numb. Lightning! The green lichen contained such a great amount of lightning. He tried to put his hand on the lichen. As expected, another arc of lightning hit his hand. Interesting. It was the first time he had encountered lichen that contained such a great amount of lightning. This was much more than what was in his sonic lightning walnuts. While he did not know the use of the green lichen, he felt that this thing would definitely have wondrous uses. He took out a jade box, and carefully gathered all the green lichen on the wood. The wood's appearance was gradually revealed. Chapter 807, Coral fire perched the surface of the wood was black as though it had been scorched by fire. It was black and did not appear special. Suemo looked at Lil Black who was the same color and couldn't help but mutter inside, "You're holding on so tightly, is it because you found something as black as you?" However, when the wood was in his hand, Suemo shook. A burning presence burrowed into Suemo's hand. Even though Suemo possessed the Sun Shin flame, he couldn't help but shake. Only when he started to channel Shin power did this burning presence only halved. Having learned the lesson, he wrapped Shen power around his hand before carefully grabbing the tree trunk. The section that was buried under was longer than Zhuo imagined. It took Zhuo some effort to pull the entire piece of wood out of the soil. The tree trunk was about twice the height of a person and about a third of it was burnt. The burnt part had most likely been struck by lightning. Zhuo could clearly feel a great amount of lightning and fire energy. It was so abundant it was almost unimaginable. Zhuo suspected that this part of the trunk was crystallized by lightning and fire energy, containing extremely pure lightning and fire energy that existed in a wondrous balance. The green lichen had changed into the lightning green lichen as a result of growing on the tree trunk for a long time and absorbing the lightning energy of the trunk. When Zhuo dug out the entire tree and wiped away the surface layer of soil, everyone else watching inhaled sharply. The part of the trunk that was not burnt was as warm and as transparent as crystal. It was possible to see thick, twisted red veins inside that filled the inner space of the wood. It was like a coral. A burning presence emanated from it. What is this? The black gold seal soldier curiously crowded over. Zhuo shook his head. I don't know. He turned to ask the ghost mist child. Do you recognize it? The ghost mist child said with slight hesitation, it should be coral wood. Coral wood? The black gold seal soldier's eyes were wide, and something glittering could be seen at the corner of his mouth. Just that name, it sounds as though it would taste delicious, I really want to eat. Coral wood? Zhuo frowned. He remembered that the sun gold leaf had mentioned this. Coral wood, jade-like material, a coral-like fire inside, it was a rare and precious fire-type material. Fire. Zhuo's Shen power was uncontrollably channeled in. Boom, the wood suddenly sprouted red flames that made everyone jump in fright. Zhuo frowned instead. Such a strange flame. Unlike his sun Shen flame, the flame inside the coral wood was as red as coal but silent. It was a pity that it was not suited to him. His flame was domineering and fierce and completely different from the fire of the coral wood. He remembered that the sun gold leaf had said that this item was most suited for a wasteland beast and could help them grow. Wasteland beast. Zhuo's gaze swept across everyone and then landed in the end on Silly Bird. His eyes lit up. This one could count as a phoenix now. Her flame was unlike his, and coral wood would be a suitable pairing. Phoenixes perched on parasol trees. There were no parasol trees, but this coral wood was perfect. Zhuo considered it and then arrived at a decision. His hand was like a knife that cut the coral wood into two. The part that contained lightning energy was split off. The lightning and fire energies in this part of the wood had completely merged together after coexisting for tens of thousands of years. The other section of the coral wood was about the height of a man. It was jade-like to the touch. A dark red coral grew throughout the transparent tree trunk. People had to marvel at the wonders of creation. Zhuo closed his eyes and thought. A long while later, he opened his eyes. His fingers were like knives that quickly started to carve on the coral wood. Scraps of clear wood flew. The black gold seal soldier who was watching eagerly did not wait for them to land on the ground before sucking them into his mouth with a content expression. About an hour later, the round trunk was covered in patterns. This is a totem pole? The ghost mist child asked uncertainly. He had never seen many of the patterns on this totem pole. It isn't. Zhuo shook his head. I used some of the totem pole methods. What should this be considered as? Zhuo was slightly uncertain. The other people did not understand what Zhuo intended, but Silly Bird's eyes suddenly lit up. She seemed to feel that was a ball of fire inside the round wood that was resonating with the fire inside her. Zhuo shook his head. It was not important what this thing was, but rather if it was useful or not. He beckoned at Silly Bird. Silly Bird, stand on it and try. If this was another day, Silly Bird would proudly ignore Zhuo if he called her Silly Bird or glare angrily. But today, without a word, her wings spread and she flew onto the coral wood. Once Silly Bird landed onto the coral wood, boom, dark red flames suddenly erupted out of the wood pillar. Silly Bird felt indescribably comfortable and sang a high note. Boom! The fire expanded. The red flames shot into the sky. An astounding wave of air gusted in all directions. Zuo, Wei Sheng, and a few others were unaffected, but the guards were unable to keep their places, bam bam bam, and were forced to retreat a few steps. However, Wei Sheng, Zhong Ru and the others changed expressions slightly. It seemed as though they saw an enormous ancient phoenix bathing in the fire of the wood. Amongst the raging flames, its proud posture could be seen. With its high-pitched cries, all beasts bowed. Silly Bird's phoenix flame and the dark red flames of the coral wood merged perfectly. The seal scripts and Shin Glphys on the pillar were unusually beautiful in the brightness of the flames. Other than the seal scripts, the most important thing on the pillar was the Sun Shin glyph. The Sun Shin glyph was the one that Zuo was most familiar with. While it was not a perfect match to the attributes of the coral wood, the wood was one of the rare materials that could support Shin glyphs. Zuo used a compromise, the Sun Shin glyph as the core, all kinds of fire formations on the surface to form a completely separate and complete little fire formation group. This round pillar did not look any different from totem poles, but the two were completely different things. Seal pole. This name was not glorious enough. Zuo immediately refused it. After thinking for a while, he decided to call it the coral fire perch. It had to be said that Zuo's design was rational. The fire contained inside the coral fire perch was completely uncovered. Silly Bird could absorb the flames while perching on it. When fighting, this would be also of help. Her phoenix flame would at least increase in power by half. With the solitary dance of the great dark wolf phoenix, together, Silly Bird had the power to fight against the wasteland beasts of the ancient times. Thinking that he had another super-powered sidekick, Zuo was extremely proud. As expected, regardless of the time, equipment was the most important. Having had a taste, Zuo started to calculate his other gains. Rain Banner, Thunder Source Hammer, Remnant of a Skanda Staff, Green Pulse String, all the parts of the ancient octopus. All of these were good materials. The Rain Commanding Banner and the Thunder Source Hammer were also undamaged, but were exhausted of their power, so they did not retain their ancient power. However, their construction was extraordinary and just the materials were very good. There was still a lingering presence of a Diana Shio on the remnant of the Skanda staff. However, what was most useful was the material. It was made from the very rare 10,000 profound copper source gilded with crimson fire gold flow. It was extremely hard, but at the same time, the difficulty in forging was high. However, for Zuo, who possessed the Sun Shin fire, this was not a problem. The green pulse strand was a powerful talisman, a treasure formed in the world. Zuo had not thought of any ways to forge it. Most importantly was that Shin glyph that Zuo called Green Pulse. It possessed great power. Only after completely comprehending the Green Pulse Shin glyph could he truly express the power of the Green Pulse string. Zuo had never had the bad habits of the forgers from the big sections. It was normal for him to adjust his designs to the materials he had on hand. After some thought, he had a new idea. He took out all of the good materials from his ring and piled it up in front of him. He called over Zhong Ru and had him try to see which kind of material could hold wish power. Wish power was a very strange power. Zuo's understanding of it was pitiful, so he decided for Zhong Ru to try them one by one. Zhong Ru understood that Zuo was planning to forge a talisman for him and was moved. However, his control over his emotions had reached a great level and his expression remained calm. He did as Zuo said and tried the items. His eyes suddenly lit up when he touched the eyes of the ancient octopus. This item is usable. Zuo's worries were immediately eased. In his view, Zhong Ru had wish power and Shin power, two completely different powers. It would be a pity if he could not enhance any one of the two. He had been worried before since there were no materials suitable for Zhong Ru. The Cross Vajra Gada could not express his strength at this point. The two eyes of the ancient octopus had turned to stone already. They were black and bright on the surface and had shrank by a third of its size. However, for a talisman, it was still too large. Zhuemo did not know much about many of Zhongru's skills, so Zhongru decided to forge a general talisman nucleus and then have Zhongru continue to perfect it. This undoubtedly tested the skill of the forger. Even Zhuemo had to seriously consider for a while before he decided to act. The first step was to forge the two eyes of the octopus. With the Sunshin fire and the phoenix flame, it only took half of a day. Zhuemo forged the two eyes until they were about the size of a fist. After forging the octopus eyes, they were black and reflective. If one met the eyes, they would unconsciously be attracted and their consciousness sinking into them. As expected of a guy that had lived for tens of thousands of years. Zhuemo's confidence multiplied. Thunder Source Hammer, the damaged Skunda staff, half of the coral wood, the incense fire ling wish beads. A pile of valuable materials flowed through Zhuemo's hands. Zhuemo had gained the incense fire ling wish beads as spoils of victory after killing Ji Zheng. The other treasure, the nether reincarnation lotus, had always been used on a Gui. After forging for 3 full days, this Shin device finally took form. This was a very strange 3-flanged max. Inside one flange was a transparent red bead about the size of a fist that floated peacefully. Inside the bead, there was a hammer that flickered in and out of view among the electricity. In another flange, there were 2 beautiful black beads that spun constantly like 2 playing fish. In the last flange, 7 incense fire ling wish beads floated up and down in the mist of the incense. Even though Zhongru's mind was as still as water, he couldn't help but stop breathing when he saw this 3-flanged staff. 1. Obtained in Chapter 678. Ji Zheng, Fanqiu of Tianhuan Temple. First mentioned in Chapter 664, and appearing in Chapter 665 where he is on a mission to assassinate Xiao Mo Gu with Dai Tao. Described as a stereotypical Dainana Xiu, with a shaved head, prayer beads, and monk robes. Chapter 808, descendant of Greenvine Zhongru caressed the 3-flanged Skunda staff and didn't maintain the mannerisms of a Diana expert at all. Zhuemo was satisfied with this 3-flanged Skunda staff as well. Among all of his works, this 3-flanged Skunda staff was near the top. Other than the high-level materials used in its design, the forging method and the designs were both outstanding. The most unique part about it was that Zhuemo had left it partially incomplete. This design could be gradually perfected by Zhongru so that the item would be better suited to him. This also gave him a new way of thinking. In the past, talismans were completely forged by forgers, and then the user would gradually learn to use it. But for top experts, their understanding of battle far surpassed forgers. This new idea, finishing the framework and then let the user perfect it. The talismans that formed would be more fitting to the needs of the user. There was no big meaning in pursuing the power of a talisman above all else. Zhuemo, who was experienced in combat, knew that talismans suited to the user were the best talismans, not the ones that were most powerful. Zhuemo named this 3-flanged Skunda staff as the 3 Manifestations Treasure Staff. Zhuemo didn't have any plans about the remaining materials and of the people here, only Luoli didn't have a good talisman. However, when he thought about Luoli's eerie, life-death lock, cultivation method, Zhuemo had a headache. That spell was truly too eerie and hard to predict. After some methods from the Undying Shin power had been added, the life-death lock became even harder to understand. Even Zhuemo, who had seen numerous Shin methodologies, could not understand. Much less forge a talisman for Luoli. Fortunately, Luoli did not care about this at all. He stayed close to Wuli every day and the world did not exist in his eyes. Agui had the undying ghost, eldest Shixiang had the god-killing blood sword, Luoli did not need anything. Zhongru now had the 3 Manifestations Treasure Staff. Even Silly Bird now had the coral fire perch. In the end, Zhuemo was the one with nothing. However, after remember that he had the green pulse string and the anti-dragon claw, Zhuemo threw the problem to the back of his mind. He would first have to think about how to get out of the summer palace before anything else. They had flown for more than a dozen days. According to their travel speed, they should have traveled over 10,000 miles. Yet there was still not an end to the forest. This was not a good sign. However, the ghost mist child dismissed it. He said that it was fast for the people that entered the 4 palaces in the past to come out in 2 months. Only then did everyone feel slightly reassured. The most patient one was Zhongru. He held the 3 manifestation treasure staff in his hand and used the staff to absorb wish power from the sunlight in the past few days. The 2 black octopus eyes turned blacker like 2 holes of empty space that floated in the air. On their way, they did not encounter any more treasures like the coral wood. The sun was still poisonous. However, with the help of the 3 manifestation treasure staff, the wish power in the sunlight was unable to harm them. After walking for 3 days, there was still no end to the forest. Zuomo suddenly felt that the scene in front of them seemed to be familiar. He frowned and threw out for a long time. He finally remembered where he had seen this before, the Sunshin Temple. The Greenwood's secret realm that Big Brother Qing Lin guarded, wasn't that very similar to this scene here? Was it? His mind moved, and during rest time, he carefully reread the jade scroll that Big Brother Qing Lin had left him. There were many things recorded in this jade scroll, including the secret, Green Vine Shin methodology, of the Green Vine tribe. Qing Lin had hoped that Zuomo could encounter the descendants of the Green Vine tribe and let them inherit this scroll. Seeing the item reminded him of the person. Seeing of the warm and welcoming expression of Big Brother Qing Lin, Zuomo felt a wave of sadness. As he thought of Big Brother Qing Lin's last request, searching for the remains of his tribe. But despite his efforts, Zuomo felt even more guilty having no success. He had sent many people to the place that Qing Lin had marked on the GM map in search of the Green Vine tribe. However, that place was now a desert and void of people. Because he cultivated Sunshin power, Zuomo did not learn the Green Vine Shin methodology. He only read it occasionally. This time, he read it seriously and many parts he had not noticed before were found. For example, he actually found the green pulse string mentioned in the scroll. This strange thing was a treasure that the Green Vine tribe dreamed about. If they could cultivate the Green Vine Shin methodology to a high degree, they did not need to refine the green pulse string in order to use it effectively. Naturally, Zuomo could not cultivate the Green Vine Shin methodology to such a great level. However, when he saw that one who cultivated the Green Vine Shin methodology could easily move and navigate through forests, he was overjoyed. He did not hope for many benefits from cultivating the Green Vine Shin methodology. He would thank the heavens if he could get out of this endless forest. If Qing Lin learned that Zuomo began cultivating the Green Vine Shin methodology, just for its use in finding his way through a forest, he would climb out of his grave. While the Green Vine tribe had not dominated like the Sun tribe, it had been a large first-class tribe. The Green Vine Shin methodology was something many tribes were jealous of. It was not difficult for Zuomo to cultivate the Green Vine Shin methodology. He had a droplet of green vine mystical water in his body. This precious mystical water had helped him countless times. When he had encountered Qing Lin, Zuomo's understanding of Shin methodology had been pitifully low. He had been ignorant of many basic details. The present Zuomo had progressed far beyond that and knew much more about Shin power. There were no obstacles in learning the Green Vine Shin methodology. A green energy floated onto Zuomo's eyes. Countless feelings came from all directions like the tide through the forest. Suddenly, a familiar feeling came from deep within the forest. Was that? Zuomo's heart shook. Unhesitatingly, he stood and flew in a direction. The other people saw this and knew that Zuomo definitely had made a discovery. They followed closely behind. The further he flew, the more the familiar feeling from the forest grew. Zuomo's eyes became even brighter. The vibration from the forest seemed to feel Zuomo's existence and was furiously flying in his direction. When a green shadow flashed through the forest, Zuomo's heart suddenly became excited and he did not hesitate to give chase. A thin and weak figure was jumping through the forest nimbly. A head full of verdant green hair reached his waist and danced in the wind. It was a young boy of about 15. Suddenly, Zuemo seemed to see that familiar elegant and tall figure with flying green hair in the Ascension temple. The little boy's eyes were like black opals. He warily examined Zuemo, puzzlement flashing through his eyes. The stranger in front of him gave him a feeling of closeness. Who are you? The young boy was slightly wary, but he was not afraid. He stared with his opal black eyes at Zuemo. His clothing was woven from the vines of the forest, and the skin exposed to the air was tanned. Zuemo. Zuemo's lips couldn't help but curve. The familiar vibrations coming off the child made him overjoyed. What are you called? I am Qing Shao. The boy seemed to feel Zuemo's friendliness and his wariness eased greatly. Zuemo suppressed the excitement he felt. You are from the Green Vine tribe? Ah. You too. Qing Shao immediately had an excited expression and he looked with anticipation at Zuemo. Zuemo smiled and flicked his finger. A dot of green flew out of his finger and turned into a green vine. I can do that. Qing Shao was very happy. He copied Zuemo in flicking a finger. A green vine of light uncoiled like a snake. Green vine Shin methodology. Zuemo was full of emotion. Was there really fate? In the end, he had not failed to fulfill what big brother Qing Lin had requested. Take us to your home, all right? Zuemo said in a soft tone. All right. Qing Shao said happily. He immediately turned into a green shadow that shot out. Zuemo and the others hurriedly followed. A short while later, a small treehouse appeared in front of everyone. The treehouse was built on top of a 1,000-year-old tree. There were many old vines hanging down. Qing Shao was like monkey that grabbed a vine and flipped into the little treehouse. He said happily, "We're home." Zuemo looked around and asked in bewilderment, "Where's everyone else? Don't you live with your clansmen?" Qing Shao's expression dimmed. "I'm the only one left. Everyone died." Died? Zuemo was stunned. The sun is poisonous. Qing Shao's expression recovered as he showed a bright smile and white teeth. However, I'm not afraid, I will definitely find a solution. Zuemo felt sorrow, but he was used to seeing life and death, so he did not lose his composure. After a moment, he recovered. He rubbed Qing Shao's head. No matter, I have a solution. Zhongru reached out with the 3 manifestation treasure staff and tapped lightly on Qing Shao. Threads of wish power crept out of Qing Shao's body like mist and were sucked into the 2 black balls. Qing Shao's eyes were wide and filled with curiosity. His body felt warm and unspeakably comfortable. Aya, it really worked. Qing Shao suddenly sat, touching his head and then his body. His clever and energetic appearance made them want to smile. Zuemo felt even greater affection for the innocent Qing Shao. He said, "Qing Shao, how about coming along with Big Brother? The sun outside isn't poisonous." "All right." Qing Shao nodded. "I'm very bored here alone. Big Brother is a good person." Zuemo heard this and smiled. He was also very happy. "Since you say Big Brother is a good person, Big Brother will have to express this." "What is express this?" Qing Shao looked curiously at Zuemo. "Close your eyes and channel Shin power," Zuemo said. Qing Shao acknowledged this, obediently closing his eyes and channeling his Shin power. Zuemo reached out a finger. A drop of water fell from his fingertip to land on Qing Shao's forehead and then disappeared. "Ah!" Qing Shao explained. His face soon turned green. Green vine mystical water. Zuemo was now giving the green vine mystical water that Big Brother Qing Lin had given him to Qing Shao. The green vine mystical water had many benefits, but for the present Zuemo, there were no great uses. However, for Qing Shao, it was of great benefit. Moments later, Qing Shao opened his eyes joyfully. Green vine mystical water. I know this. This is green vine mystical water. Zhuo was unspeakably happy. He asked with a smile, Big Brother also has something else to give you. As he spoke, he took off the green pulse string on his wrist and tied it on Qing Shao's wrist. The ghost mist child's eyes were wide in disbelief. Green pulse string. That was green pulse string. Qing Shao was both excited and curious as he swung the green pulse string. It had to be said that the green pulse string was a natural match for the green vine tribe. In just a short while, the green pulse string seemed to come alive on Qing Shao's hand. The green pulse string was powerful, but in Zhuo's hands, it could not be used to its greatest power. In Zhuo's hands, the greatest value of the green pulse string was the green pulse Shen glyph. Zhuo's heart was unusually calm and he seemed to understand. The last wishes of Big Brother Qing Lin had been a burden on his mind. After this burden was resolved, he felt relaxed as though a great weight had been taken off. His mentality had went a level further and became even more understanding. Chapter 809, Danger Mo Cloud Sea. Hong Xiao carefully finished reading the report from her subordinate. She appeared as though she was trying to see something from the report. Her subordinates didn't dare to make a sound. The higher-ups had directly made Hong Xiao one of the two chief managers. For the subordinates, they only had one choice, submit. Also, Hong Xiao had been in charge of an underground power, Red Snapped Silk, before, and naturally could not avoid having an additional viciousness and brutality. After a short while, she had earned the complete respect of this group of people. No wonder she could be the chief steward. She wasn't just a little bit strong. There had always been rumors between them that the two chief stewards were competing amongst themselves by managing their two separate groups. This rumor was plausible and even Chief Steward Hong Xiao never refuted it. For these people, their own benefits were more important than anything else. Profit and their position were what they were most concerned about. The existence of a competitor greatly increased the unity of their group. This was to join against a common enemy. It was the first time Hong Xiao showed such a serious expression. The subordinates speculated inside and exchanged looks. Hong Xiao's gaze was serious. This report, on the surface, did not have any unusual content, but the experience Hong Xiao felt a hint of danger. She was very satisfied with her present days. She was not like Zhang Shui. She had lived more than a decade in the darkness. She knew that it was a blessing her family was still alive. The other had too many ways of controlling her. Her hands were drenched with blood and she was familiar with those terrifying methods. Unlike Zhang Shui who resisted, she had unhesitatingly agreed to her captor's demands. She had been very unaccustomed to this completely new lease on life. There was no darkness, everything was done in the open. The higher-ups did not restrict her from using any methods. However, unless it was against some truly despicable enemies, she rarely used any methods of the darkness. This was a completely new life, a completely new world. She was very satisfied, especially when she saw her son's innocent smile. When she thought of how he would have a good future, hope formed in her chest. This gave her new motivation. She treasured this opportunity, treasured this difficult change, and because of it, she was unusually hardworking. She would definitely not lose to Zhang Shui. Her work had proceeded smoothly. The support behind her was strong so that she had enough advantages in the market when she started. For Hong Xiao, who was used to working hard to gather weight in the darkness, her work could be described as easy. But to her who had been in the darkness for a long time, she had an unusual intuition about danger. "Give me last month's supplier prices," she said coldly. The subordinates quickly searched. Last month's accounts quickly appeared on the Mirage. Green flower wood, sky star sand, rainbow dew, who is the supplier for these three materials? She asked rapidly. The subordinates were busy for a while. Moments later, they reported, "It is Bright Capital Business Association." In the past, it was Lin Fu Business Association. Bright Capital Business Association's price is 15% higher than Lin Fu Business Association. Hong Xiao stared at her subordinate's face. The subordinate explained, Lin Fu Business Association has stopped working with us for a month and has refused to communicate with us. In order to avoid our supply chain breaking, we choose Bright Capital Business Association. Bright Capital Business Association is located far away and the cost of transporting is much higher. Also, due to the suddenness of the order, they are not prepared. Our order is large, and the timing is urgent, so they had to raise the price in order to complete the purchase. Why did Lin Fu Business Association stop working with us? Hong Xiao suddenly asked. I don't know. The subordinates shook their head. They do not seem to be very stable internally. We cannot interfere in this kind of matter. Go investigate. Hong Xiao said briskly. That is not very appropriate. The subordinate was conflicted. It was an unspoken taboo in the mercantile circles to interfere in the matters of other businesses. All right. Hong Xiao did not try to force the subordinate and said, you may leave. Yes. The subordinate sighed in relief and hurriedly retreated. Hong Xiao did not leave. She focused and thought for a while before deciding to report the matter, adding on her own speculations and suggestions. While the conclusion had not yet come out, she knew. Someone was acting against them. Go investigate, she suddenly said. In the dark corner, an imperceptible shadow disappeared. Those subordinates cared too much about convention when working. For an experienced hand like her that had lived for many years in the world of the shadows, she only cared about results. The methods were not important. She believed that the higher-ups also thought this. Sang Ling Shue's delicate brow creased as she listened to the report of the subordinate. Sang Ling Shue worked hard. After being given a scare, she didn't dare to play any more tricks. Also, after the initial terror, she gradually adjusted to her new work. She quickly found that the strength of the faction was so great it was unimaginable. Only after a period of time did she realize the new faction she worked for was Mo Cloud Sea. Of course she knew of Mo Cloud Sea. In the Yao world, everyone knew the name Mo Cloud Sea. This strong power, who did not have a lot of territory, but was strong and produced all kinds of talismans. The Yao did not have a habit of using talismans in the past. They used Yao cores. But Yao cores were rare and expensive. Yet, just a while ago, large amounts of Yao cores that were suitable for Yao started to appear on the market. Strangely, these Yao cores were not natural, but synthetic. There were only a rare few that knew that these forged Yao cores were produced by Mo Cloud Sea. Sang Ling Shue, who had been in business for many years, was one of the rare few privy to this. Mo Cloud Sea was like a riddle, powerful and mysterious. Talismans, Mo weapons, Yao cores, their products were sold to all three races. Even Tian Huan, who was famed for their forging, did not have the ability to produce three completely different types of weapons. But Mo Cloud Sea did. Too strong. The rumors said the start of the Shen Power era had been initiated by the master of Mo Cloud Sea. The first pseudo-Shen weapon had also been forged by the master of Mo Cloud Sea. The last hint of unwillingness inside Sang Ling Shue disappeared at being able to be in the service of such a powerful faction. She was only curious. Why had Mo Cloud Sea picked her? She believed she had some talent, but for a large faction like Mo Cloud Sea, they had the ability to find someone better. Even now, she did not understand this. But she understood that this was a chance for her, a great opportunity. The business she had before was just a little business in an area. Right now, she managed a powerful faction that had the right to speak in all three realms. If she did well, she would definitely become a core member of Mo Cloud Sea in the near future. Undoubtedly, her family would rise as well. Even though she had a competitor. This did not demotivate her. While she did not have such a complex history as Hong Xiao, her growth had not been easy. She did not fear competition. Recently, the market had not been right. The price of Shen equipment, which had been rising constantly, slowed in its rise, and in this month, a small drop had occurred. This was definitely unusual. Right now, there were only a few parties that had the ability to produce Shen equipment. The one that sold best was MO Cloud Shin equipment due to the outstanding nature and the relatively low price. The Tianhuan Shin equipment was also one of 3 major Shin equipment, but it was priced at almost 20% higher than MO Cloud Shin equipment. Kunlun Shin equipment was also outstanding in power, but their production was limited. It would take them a long time to just outfit their own forces. The amount of MO Cloud Shin equipment on the market had greatly increased due to the large order from Shixian. From all the signs, it meant that in the long term, the price of Shin equipment should remain high and not drop. This unusual phenomenon, the fall in prices, immediately set off Zhang Lingshue's alarm. Someone was fighting for the market. Qing Shao quickly familiarized himself with Zhou Mo and the group. Gradually, Zhou Mo understood what had happened. The master of the Totem Colosseum had been the good friend of the Greenvine tribe. When he designed the Totem Colosseum, a branch of the Greenvine tribe had settled in the Summer Palace to guard the forest for him. Then they started to live here. At regular intervals, the master of the Totem Colosseum would help draw out the wish power in their bodies. Yet, unexpectedly, the master of the Totem Colosseum disappeared and the Totem Colosseum closed. The Greenvine tribe branch that lived in the Summer Palace were trapped inside. Due to this, they managed to avoid the Battle of the Sealed Extinction. But the wish power in the sunlight became the greatest enemy of the Greenvine tribe. When the strongest of the tribe were here, everyone could manage to get by. As the strongest among them started to die, the Greenvine tribe started to decrease in number. Until now, where Qing Shao was the only one left. Maybe because he had lived in this environment from childhood that Qing Shao could resist wish power to a certain degree. However, if Zhou Mo and the other had not appeared, in 20 years, Qing Shao would also die from the corrosion of wish power. At that time, this vibrant forest would also disappear with Qing Shao's death. Zhou Mo had to rejoice that he had come at this time. Qing Shao was lively, clever, and innocent. Everyone liked him. This completely preserved forest had given him the best place to cultivate. The Greenvine Shin power he had was very pure. Other than become a completely deadweight in battle, his power astounded them. That green pulse string that became especially scary in his hands. He seemed to innately know how to use the green pulse string. The long green pulse string was also unusually obedient. It was uncanny in his hands, unpredictable, and even the ghost mist child was shocked. With Qing Shao here, walking out of the forest was very easy. Qing Shao was familiar with every inch here, and did not find it difficult to lead them out of the forest. Following Qing Shao, the group quickly reached the edge of the forest. An endless ocean and storm appeared in front of them. Chapter 810, Awaken the Forest Treeline ended abruptly. It was a clear dividing line. On one side of the line was a dense forest, and on the other a great ocean. On one side was a bright sun and hot day, on the other a furious storm. The clouds were black, and the curtain of rain carried hail that smashed into the ocean. The seawater was pulled up dozens of li into the air by the furious wind. Lightning flashed and thunder roared in the space between the clouds and the water. Everyone's expressions became serious. Everyone could feel the furious power contained within the storm. Yet, except for charging forward, they had no other choice. Form the battle formation. Everyone, pay attention to the positions of those around you. Zhou Mo ordered. Then he grabbed Qing Shao and turned to say to Zhong Ru. See if the 3 manifestation treasure staff can draw away the lightning. Zhong Ru nodded to indicate he understood. Everyone was trained and quickly finished the battle formation. Wei Sheng, Xing Lianer and the other experts entered the core positions. In Mo Cloud C, no matter your skill level, you had battle formation training. Even Wei Sheng was not an exception. In Zhou Mo's view, the top experts that could merge into a battle formation were the ones that would be able to express their greatest power in large-scale battles. This was something he copied from the MO fighting methods. Among the MO, the battle general was the strongest. All the power would gather on the battle general who would then attack. At Wei Sheng's level, he understood more about battle formations than the average battle generals. He was more sensitive towards power and had stronger control. Seeing the magnificent composition of this battle formation, Zhuo had some confidence. He said with bravado, "Go." The group headed into the storm. Even though they had a guess, when they truly charged into the storm, that feeling was completely different. Once they charged into the storm, they felt their vision darken. Their ears were filled with howling of the wind and they could not hear anything else. The furious winds were like blades and caused sparks to fly when they hit the barrier of the battle formation. Rain and hail smashed down. The rain seemed to contain a certain corrosion ability. When the hail hit the light shield of the battle formation, it immediately spread outwards, forming a patch of frost. The power of the storm was endless. The people in the formation were like leaves flying in the wind, unable to stabilize themselves. Light flashed in the clouds above them. Suddenly, a thick bolt of lightning came out of the cloud layer and hit the battle formation. Zhongru, who had been prepared, raised his 3 manifestation treasure staff without any hesitation. Hiss, crack, crack. The thick lightning accurately hit the 3 manifestation treasure staff. Zhongru felt his hand become heavy from numbness. The round clear ball of the 3 manifestation treasure staff suddenly lit up with light. The lightning burrowed into the thunder source hammer and the thunder source hammer lit up with silver light. Zhongru sighed in relief. The 3 manifestation treasure staff was strong. At this time, the sky suddenly flickered. Zhongru's expression changed slightly. Before he could react, hiss, crack, crack, 3 successive thick bolts of lightning hit his 3 manifestation treasure staff. Zhongru felt as though his chest was hit with a heavy hammer and gave a muffled grunt. The 3 manifestation treasure staff was untouched. After swallowing 4 lightning bolts, the thunder source hammer had an even brighter silver light. There was a layer of snapping electricity around it. Zhuo seemed to be facing a great enemy. There was a strange power inside the raindrops that were battering the light shield of the battle formation. The power of each rain droplet was small, but it was a great storm outside. In every moment, there were uncountable droplets of rain that were hitting the light shield of the battle formation. Everyone's energies were being expended. Adding on the hail. Damn it! Zhuo was anxious but not panicked. Zhongru had the 3 manifestation treasure staff for the lightning. Then what about the rain and the hail? His eyes suddenly lit up. How had he forgotten this? With a flip of his hand, a tattered banner appeared on his hand. The rain commanding banner. Zhuo threw it to the ghost mist child. Do you know how to use this? The ghost mist child had been thirsting after the rain commanding banner. He had high affinity with the attributes of rain and this would be a suitable treasure for him. However, he knew that he was the newcomer and had not performed meritoriously. If he spoke up and asked for such a treasure, he would probably be beaten to death by Darren. Hearing Zhuo ask if he could use it, he was overjoyed. He nodded repeatedly, yes, yes. Even in the past, the rain commanding banner had been a top-ranked treasure. Zhuo did not waste words and threw the rain commanding banner to the ghost mist child. The ghost mist child had not lied. When he waved the rain commanding banner, the rain droplets outside seemed to be obedient and opened a path. Everyone felt the pressure on them lessen. The corrosiveness of the rain droplets had been the greatest burden on their endurance. Now that it was gone, they all felt light. Nice. You have some skill. Zhuo praised with surprise on his face. The ghost mist child puffed up his chest and stomach with a proud expression. However, with his childlike appearance, it looked ridiculous. But while he felt proud, he said humbly, "It is this rain commanding banner that is easy to use." Zhuo said generously, "Oh, not bad, the rain commanding banner belongs to you now, do not waste a treasure like this." The ghost mist child was stunned by this free food that fell from the sky. With his daze, the rain droplets started to hit the battle formation's light shield. Work hard. Zhuo swore, glaring. If you cannot do good work, this will be taken back. Ah! The ghost mist child seemed to wake up and hugged the rain commanding banner with an expression of panic. He hurriedly said, "I'll work hard." I will definitely work hard. The pressure lessened again. Suemo sighed softly. He ignored this guy, he didn't have a good head. The lightning and the storm had both been resolved. The only things left were the hail and the strong wind. Sparks flashed and disappeared on the light shield, circles of frost forming and disappearing. Resisting this was not a great expenditure for the battle formation. But who knew how large this ocean was? There were no problems in maintaining the battle formation for 5 days. 10 days, it would be hard to manage. 15 days, it would be at the limits. Over 15 days. Suemo asked Qing Shao, have you come here before? No. Qing Shao obediently shook his head. There was no fear on his face as he looked with curiosity at the rain outside. Suemo was slightly disappointed. He gritted his teeth. There were no solutions. They could only charge forward. After flying for 10 days in the storm, there were no signs they were leaving the storm. They had tried to fly towards the clouds. If they were above the clouds, there would not be a storm. Yet when they went close to the cloud layer, countless lightning and thunder would smash towards them, preventing them from ascending. That scene carried all of them. They did not hesitate to fly down. No one had seen such packed lightning and thunder. Even Zhongru, who held the 3 manifestation treasures staff, would end up as dust under such terrifying lightning. Helpless, they could only move through the storm. Seeing the undisguised exhaustion on everyone's faces, Suemo knew that they had to rest. Everyone, stop for a while. Suemo called for everyone to stop and then took out a palm-sized city from his ring. King's Forbidden City. The King's Forbidden City grew rapidly in the sky and in a blink, covered everyone. In this moment, everyone felt the world had become quiet. The roaring had stopped. They seemed to be in a completely different world. The furious roars of the wind, the rain, and ice were outside while this place was peaceful. The mysterious and complex seal scripts that flashed in the sky above the city made everyone feel strangely safe. Their nerves had been tensed for 10 days. Everyone was tired. Once they had the chance to breathe, they sat down and started to replenish their Shen power. Zuomo's power was quickly recovering. Inside the King's Forbidden Firmament, his recovery was faster than any other person. This chance to breath was really too precious. Zuomo rejoiced that he had not forgotten about the King's Forbidden Firmament. In these past years, Zuomo had spent time organizing his memories. He had uncovered some memory fragments hidden deep in his mind. The city of his childhood had been filled out in his mind, and he had reforged the King's Forbidden Firmament. With his deeper understanding of seal formations and enough materials, the newly forged King's Forbidden Firmament was more secure than before and stronger. He had reforged the King's Forbidden Firmament as a memento of his blurry memories. Even though he had reforged the King's Forbidden Firmament, a talisman like this could not be of direct help to him like a Shen device. He hadn't through this memento of his childhood memories could save his life. Zuomo grimaced and a complex emotion rose. He turned around to look. Most of the places in the city were the exact same as his memories. This was the first time he entered the King's Forbidden Firmament since it had been reforged. This familiar yet unfamiliar feeling was unspeakably strange. He shook his head and laughed self-mockingly. He had actually the spare time to lament. At this time, he suddenly noticed the strangeness of Ague next to him. Ague suddenly stood up. Ague, what is it? Zuomo was slightly nervous and quickly followed. Ague did not seem to hear. She walked along a small path slowly. Her eyes were not empty any longer, but puzzled. Agui's steps were slow and a ripple finally appeared on her forever emotionless face. Zuomo became worried. Ague seemed very familiar with this place. She walked silently, and her expression became wooden again. Zuomo seemed to understand. It must be that Ague still had some memory fragments. The familiar environment of the King's Forbidden Firmament had awakened a part of her memories. Ague seemed to be very familiar with this place, and after some twists and turns, she came to a small yard. Her hand was placed on the door, and she pushed it open. Zhuo stilled. This yard, this little yard. A slightly blurry scene appeared in front of him. Gui Gui, this name isn't pleasing to hear, the little boy muttered, his hands not slowing at all. The little girl tilted her head. Gui Gui feels that it is very good. Why do you work so hard on something as boring as cultivation? The little boy had an expression of puzzlement as he carefully treated the wounds on the little girl's feet. The little girl teared up due to the pain, and her voice carried a sob. However, she was unusually determined. Because only by getting stronger can I protect young Mater. This place is very safe. I don't need to be protected. I don't like to go out. The little boy's head shook like a rattle drum. But what if there is a day? The little girl tilted her head. Young master. A slightly wooden and hoarse voice sounded by his ear, just like when in their childhood, he was having delusions. Zhuo felt uncomfortable and gave a short huff to expel the melancholy he felt. He raised his head and met a pair of purple eyes. Zhuo was dumbstruck where he stood.